Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome to the next Marvel panel discussion and review. We are continuing the X-Men series, very close to the end. Not quite, but that'll be next week. We're at the penultimate film in this series, and that is Deadpool 2. And I'm joined by Callum once again.
Yep.
And patreon.com/Genesis of Androzani if you'd like to contribute to the channel. We have multiple tiers, such as the timey-wimey tier where you get early access and exclusive access, and we also have the master tier where you get all of that plus requesting a video for us to do, as we did last week, where we appealed we did a video from a request and it ended up being 4 hours, and that was a lot longer than I expected, but that's normal for our channel. We are like our longmans, as they say.
We are the longmen. The longman bad.
Yeah. Maybe not as long as the official longman, but maybe someday that will happen. But Patreon, if you want this channel to be our full-time job and we do proper longmans, contribute to Patreon. But yeah, anyway. Yes, Deadpool 2 is the film we're reviewing today. It feels like we've been reviewing X-Men forever. It
feels, but at the same time, it feels so long. But at the same time, it feels like there has been no proper build-up. Apart from Days of Future Past, there's no been building up to something.
It's just,
when in reality, it's building up to Dark Phoenix, which is an.
It feels like It feels like I watched the X-Men original trilogy like a year ago. That's how that feels. It does.
Like, I was thinking in my head the other day. I was thinking when doing this X-Men franchise, what films did I really feel like it was worth watching? And I would probably say First Class, Days of Future Past, maybe The Wolverine, Logan and Deadpool.
You'd already seen Logan and Deadpool before.
I've already seen two of them. So yeah, it's been a slog, I would say, of a franchise. I think that's the way to describe it.
Which is weird, because the Spider-Man series had a lot of films, but that didn't feel that long. It felt like it just happened really quickly, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that had the fucking Sony shit fest month that we had to endure, where it was the Garfield films and Avi Arad's Venom, Venom gasm surrounding it.
Yeah, from Spider-Man 3 to Venom was the Avi Arad. It was like the Avi Arad quadrilogy. So.
The Avi Arad cringe fest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but this X-Men series feels like we've been doing it for years. Especially considering with the Avengers, with the MCU, we did all the films in a month.
Yeah, and we did one every single day apart from weekends. Well, I didn't do the weekends. You did it every single day.
Yeah, there was only 1 or 2 days that I missed. The first one was only because you and Josh couldn't do Incredible Hulk on the second day, so I had to wait a day. And I'm pretty sure apart from that, it was every fucking day. And then towards the end, we did 2 a day. I think it was Spider-Man and Ragnarok, and then Black Panther and Infinity War, and then Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel.
Oh god, those were rough ones to get through. No, some of the films were good, but
yeah. Oh, actually no, there was one, but it wasn't our fault. It was Doctor Strange. We had to redo it the next day.
Thankfully, I didn't have to endure that.
Yeah. Just never. I'm never gonna like that. I'm never gonna have a good memory of that film just because of that event.
And then Guardians 2 suffered for it.
Yeah, because I was I'm feeling absolute shit. I want the sequel to that really fun film from Phase 2, and then Guardians.
It's a deep emotional story, very depressing.
It's miserable. It's a miserable film, and that's why Adam loves it, because he's miserable. Anyway, enough mucking around. That's how 5 minutes of poo out the way. Anyway, Deadpool 2. So we've seen Deadpool 1, so this is obviously the sequel. You go first, your 2-minute initial thoughts on Deadpool 2.
Okay, so with Deadpool 1, I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was a nice, simple story with great characters, great jokes, and it was very nicely done. This definitely does feel like a step up, but would I say it is better, though? I think that's the real question, because I feel like this film is very more plot-driven. It's very more story-driven. It's kind of like this weird film that I love in a sense that it makes me laugh. It's very entertaining, but it feels very different from Deadpool 1 in some aspects, I think. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think this film does a very good job at being a bit more emotional than it was in the first film. It's a lot more silly as well, I would say. It's very mixly. It's a very weird mixed feeling I have, but I think overall, I think it's a really great film. I think it's a good follow-up for Deadpool 1, and I feel like it's a good watch as well. It's a nice light film to watch, comparing it to all the other films we've watched in this franchise. So yeah, I enjoyed my rewatch of it. Probably enjoyed it a bit less than I did the first time I watched it, but I still think it's very entertaining to watch.
All right. And what did I think? Well, I would say, in comparison to Deadpool 1, I would say this is, for me, disappointing. Not a bad film. I would say it's a good film, decent film, with some real strengths, but with some very apparent weaknesses as well. I don't really know what to say. I think I do think it's a good film at heart, but I definitely didn't have anywhere near as much fun with this as I did the first film, and not for the reasons that I thought it would be. This film for me has an overall shift in its sort of approach, and also its storytelling, and I think it's definitely a subjective thing, but yeah, this for me had nowhere near as much magic as the first Deadpool. It's not. It didn't like piss me off or anything. I just felt very ambivalent towards a lot of it, unfortunately. But it's a good film, I suppose. By itself, yeah, a good film. I think just because I hold Deadpool 1 in such a high regard, I'm always going to be a bit harsh on this. But yeah, no, it's good. I like Deadpool 2. I wouldn't say I'm like desperate to rewatch it, but yeah. I would say it was, I don't know. I'll get more into detail when we get to like the individual pieces and parts, but it does have its strengths. It does have its strengths, but I don't particularly really have a strong. I think it can't even gather the word. I don't really have a strong. See, I'm lost. My vocabulary is lost. I just it was not for me. Nowhere near as top tier as I thought Deadpool 1 was, which is interesting because I've heard multiple people in the last couple of weeks tell me they prefer this, like Adam and one of my friends from work. So, yeah, I don't know I suppose maybe that change for them was for the better, whereas for me it wasn't. Don't know. But yeah, I suppose we'll find out. But yeah, and I'd say that my big sort of overall thought is, in comparison to Deadpool 1, disappointing, but still a good film.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we'll go into the characters. Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool, portrayed by Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, I think much like in the first one, he's as good as he is. I think he has. It's weird because I think he does in this film. It's a very emotionally driven film for him, for the character. considering what happens in the prologue. And I think Ryan Reynolds does a very good job. I think he's as entertaining as he was in the last film. And I think it's very odd, really, because I would probably say he is the best part about it. He's still as charismatic, he's still as funny, he still has very well acted as Deadpool. It's just, it feels like there's something is a bit off. And I don't know what it is. I don't know how to describe it.
And when you say off, is it in terms of the plot, his plot, or his?
It might be to do with the plot more so, I think, rather than the performance. Because it feels like, it just feels like with this film, right? It feels like, apart from the prologue, which I think is the driving force for him, I would say this film just sort of happens as it goes.
I will quickly say, before I forget, I do really like the prologue of this film.
I love the prologue.
Yeah,
I think it's
great.
Fantastic.
It's great. It's great. But where the film starts to dip is later.
Yeah, like that after when Wade is out on the street in the rain. I think that is an incredibly directed sequence. I think the lighting and the sort of direction and the cinematography is fantastic in that scene. I love the way that whole thing was done. I think it's brilliant. And then after that, I feel like that the plot just sort of, it seemingly just sort of happens as it goes. It doesn't really feel like there's a... it just feels like that I don't... For the first half an hour up until when Cable goes back in time and then the icebox prison fight happens, it just feels like we're just treading along. We're just sort of wavering above the story.
Well, my biggest criticism with this film compared to the first one is it's nowhere near as focused. The first film had so much focus in every scene, every plot point, everything was so well, carefully put together. It felt like it all had a purpose, and that's why it was, really filled to the brim with important, significant moments. Whereas I feel like this film has a lot of filler, not in terms of filler in the sense that it's just meaningless bollocks. It's just, it doesn't feel as important, a lot of it, and that's, I think, a big problem, because it makes it less captivating. Whilst Ryan Reynolds certainly is a great actor and is a captivating presence, once you hit the sort of middle of the plot, I feel like it sort of loses a bit of that focus, and it becomes a bit like it feels like I'm constantly waiting for the next big character moment. So, like, for example, I would say, obviously the prologue is brilliant. Another sort of character moment, in quotation marks, is when he falls out of the prison, like down the hill, hits the rock, and then goes into the ocean. And throughout the film, obviously, you get all these sort of visions of him sort of going to heaven, as you will.
Yeah.
Which I think are really cool. But it feels like constantly throughout the film, I'm sort of just waiting for those moments, because those are like the best parts. But everything else feels very filler, and it's weird because I don't know. I just I was sort of my sort of Deadpool brain canon is very much, before watching this film, was very much set in this sort of bubble of everything's important, everything's focused, it's all, everything is so integral to the film, and you have to watch every scene because it's must see. That's how I felt about the first film. Whereas with this one, it just sort of feels like he sort of stumbles along and visits all the different friends we saw in the first one, meets some new ones, and it's sort of and then you get a bit of fun, and then there's a bit of action, and then you get the ending, and it's all emotional, and then that's it. It felt like a step down for me, because it felt like his sort of dynamic presence became sort of, it blended into the film rather than being the focal point. And I think that was one of my biggest criticisms of the X-Men films, because they didn't allow Wolverine to have as much presence. I feel like in a lot of the middle act of this film especially, Deadpool started to become like Wolverine in the X-Men films, where he's the best part, but his focus isn't there like it was in the first film, and for me that takes it down. because, well, I mean, that's what I loved about the first film, really. It was this sort of point of view. So, it's, and also I would say a lot of another thing I'm going to probably bring up a lot in this review is, as compared to the first film, which was full of witty and very clever humor that I found extremely refreshing. With this one, it felt like there were still some really good jokes, but I felt like a lot of it was quite forced and very sort of on the nose. And it felt like the film was trying to produce this humor rather than let it flow. And for me, that's unfortunate because that makes Deadpool feel like other comedy films rather than its own thing. But that being said, there are some parts that are really funny. But just, yeah, I think that's sort of my overall feeling about it. I feel like Deadpool's focus wasn't enough, because I get why they did that, because they're trying to focus on other characters, but I just don't think that they are anywhere near as interesting as he is. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I agree that I feel like this film feels a lot less focused than it is in the first one. Like I said, I think like for most of the first act, it seemingly just seems like we're just going along and nothing. It's just things are just sort of happening. There's no real building up to something. Especially when they go to prison, it just feels like we're just sort of there, and there's no real.
Whereas you compare that
meaning behind it.
Whereas you compare that to something like Guardians of the Galaxy, where when they go to prison is when the film gets really good, because that's when all the characters come together and they get a drive to escape.
Yeah.
Whereas in Deadpool 2, it just sort of feels like, oh, they're in prison, ha ha ha. Does this place have a sorting hat? Ho ho. Like, it's funny, but it's a bit like, oh, okay. And then the only way they escape is by an explosion. And it's like, oh, all right then.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like the bunch of like because the necklace has now got cancer again. Well, he's having because he still has cancer, but his abilities are.
Because of disabled. The plot device around his neck.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, I've got cancer again. I'm a bit useless now, and then and then Josh Brolin shows up. And then it gets going.
Yeah, we'll get to that character, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the quote unquote themes of this film are for Deadpool is like, obviously they keep saying that his heart isn't in the right place, and they're saying like children make people better than who they really are. I think that's the sort of message they're trying to get across with his character in this film, and I think, well, I think in concept that could work really well. I just think the execution could have been a lot better.
The ending of the film, I felt nothing towards, because the characters that he's so-called, like they call them family, for me, they just don't feel connected.
It doesn't feel like a family.
Yeah, whereas, again, I'm going to make another comparison. Guardians of the Galaxy, they do feel like family. Whereas with this film, they just sort of feel like a bunch of people that got to know each other and are now bonded, but they don't feel like they fit in the same way that Deadpool's family do.
Yeah, that's how I sort of feel about it. I think it's just hard because I feel like it could have been really done well, and I think they could have built up this sort of family thing better, but it doesn't feel like that because they all feel like they just come together because of the plot, and they really kind of do, because they send out like advertisement to build the group. They don't feel, the people who stay alive, they don't feel connected to each other. They don't feel like they fit together.
And also, I also think that whilst I understand why they did it for the plot that they were setting up, one of my favorite parts of the first film was Deadpool's girlfriend. She's one of the best characters. The fact that she was taken out of this film and replaced with other characters that I find far less interesting, I think causes it to sort of derail in terms of believing that these people are bonded. Because if it was I don't know, if they did a different story where she was a part of it, I feel like I would be way more invested. Because Deadpool 1, with their sort of relationship, I felt like was so brilliant. Um, and the fact that obviously she died kind of just. Whilst it certainly was, like, again, like the best scenes in this film are the ones that she's in with him, for me.
Yeah.
But the fact that that's such a small part of the film kind of just it's a bit sad because I think it's it was great. It was a great thing, and they took it away. And whilst that's part of the themes for Deadpool's character, because the rest of the film is sort of just action, escape from prison, comedy. We need to stop this kid from killing so that he doesn't kill my daughter, and self-sacrifice, but really not, because we're family, and just plot devices to make sure that all these subversions happen would make sense, and there's no real, like, it's so contrived to get to where they're trying to get to, and when they get to it, it doesn't feel as satisfying as it should.
And they do a few jokes when they talk about the lazy writing, and that's funny, but it still is lazy writing.
Yeah.
It's
See, the thing is with the first film is when they said that, it was taking the piss out of tropes that do that, whereas with this film it feels like they actually lazily wrote it and they used it as a way of, we need to have the audience not criticize our content, so we will say that it's lazy. That's how it feels to me, even though that's probably not what they intended. It's a bit like how in Apocalypse, how they're like, the third film's always the worst one, and Apocalypse is the third film, and it is the worst one.
It's just so weird because it feels like there's a lot more blatant missteps in this film than there are in Deadpool 1. But it feels like they're making more jokes about it in this one as opposed to the first one. It's just so odd, and it's just like, while it's entertaining as you watch it, and there are a lot of funny moments, it just feels like it's a film that happens. That's the best way I can describe the overarching plot, is that it happens and we're going along, and Deadpool's learning, he's like, I need to protect this kid now because, this guy.
And I also think this is a film that's overstuffed with characters.
Yeah, it's very overblown.
And the Act 2 of this film, it's like, obviously you got the jail scene, which is kind of similar to Guardians in some ways, but I would say like a lot of Act 2, it was reminding me a bit of Spider-Man 3, where it was kind of like, whoa, there's just stuff happening and events colliding with each other, and it's a bit all over the place.
Like the build up to the building the team and then them getting to the truck, I feel it goes on way too long. I feel it takes a bunk of the film. And while it's funny how they're like gathering all these people, including a character played by Terry Crews, and they all just die within the first 5 minutes of their introduction, it's funny, but it does derail the plot and the pacing of this film. The pacing, I think, is very all over the place. Yeah. Especially during the middle, I would say.
Whereas I would argue the pacing of the first film was class.
I think the pacing was so well done. It was well paced well. This film, it feels like it feels that at the very start it goes at 100 miles per hour, and then it stops for a good while, and then the prison escape scene happens, and then it goes it goes faster again, and then that ends, and then it goes to a screeching halt up until they jump out of the plane.
Yeah, and I also think there's another element to this film that's missing, and that's the one of the best parts of Deadpool 1 was when all of the laughter stopped and it became horror. And that was when you got Ed Skrein's character, who was doing all those experiments on those like dying patients. And the film actually took its time to establish like the serious nature of parts of it. And that was one of the part. I think it was almost like, you know how they say comic relief? It was almost like in comic relief, where it was actually stopping the fun to show you the reality of it. And it was also the same of when, obviously, he found out he had cancer. It was like that as well in the first film, which I think were such important parts of the film that actually made it feel like it was earning its sort of clumsiness, not in clumsiness in terms of its writing, but in terms of its sort of humor.
Mm.
And the humor actually gave it, had purpose. Whereas with this film, it feels like there is none of that actual horror, and it's just a bunch of jokes that happen whilst this sort of badly paced plot happens to get us to the next event in the film. That's you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a mess, really.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, Deadpool's fine, but like, it's just not enough focus.
Yeah. There is a lot of jokes that I obviously do like. I like the DCEU joke. I think that's pretty great. Uh, I just think there is a lot of funny stuff to this film, and I think there's a lot of good jokes. But it feels like some jokes are either taken a bit too far, or they're just
The
not
delivery,
relevant.
sometimes the delivery feels too forced. There's this
Mhm.
thing that it does where like the music stops for them to say something, and that was
Mhm.
something that I didn't like about Thor Ragnarok. And it feels like this film is sort of starting to lean in that direction, which for me anyway was not what I wanted.
Mm.
Because that's what I fucking loved about Deadpool 1 was how natural the jokes were. And this film had a lot of like references to things that I was like, I have no idea what you were talking about. Like things like references to like Beyonce and whatnot. I was like, I don't know what that's about. And I'm like, sure, someone else might find that funny, but there was a lot of them.
Mhm.
It's almost like in the Saranga conundrum when Chris Chibnall couldn't stop talking about like British football teams or something, or like British TV shows. I can't even fucking remember. It was
Mhm.
weird. Um, but yeah, there was a lot of references, almost to the point of it being like a Family Guy episode. It was a lot.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but there was some funny jokes, but just a lot of it was a
Yeah,
bit
I
like,
think my favorite joke from the film is the uh, X-Men cameos within the mansion. I think that's
oh,
really funny. It's like,
yeah.
oh, can the studio not pull for all these other actors? And they just, a shot is them all in a room, and then Quicksilver just closes the door. And so that is proper funny.
I
That's
like it.
really funny.
I loved it when Deadpool was riding Professor X's wheelchair.
Yeah, and wearing Cerebro as well.
Yeah, yeah.
But all that stuff is great. And then after that, when they meet Russell for the first time, I feel like that's the moment when it sort of starts to dive down a bit in quality. I think that's sort of the scene that really
Well,
changes how the film
well,
goes.
we'll get to that character,
Yeah.
but yeah, Deadpool. Um, but the best part for me is all the scenes that have to do with him and his girlfriend. The fact that she
Yeah.
dies. He has these visions. I think the visions are very well realized. The direction on them looks great. The effects look great. And I love the fact that when he walks through that force field, he becomes like handsome Ryan Reynolds again.
Yeah, pre-cancer, yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Also, the opening, like, Skyfall-esque intro was brilliant. I
oh
loved
yeah.
that. That was great.
The first like 10 minutes of this film is just as good as Deadpool 1. Like
Yeah, I think it's great.
it's great. It's just when the main plot starts, it starts to go.
Yeah, the Martha joke as well when he arrives back at the apartment. I think is also great, referencing Batman vs Superman. That's
Mm.
fantastic.
Well,
I love it.
I haven't seen that film, so I
Yeah,
wouldn't.
but you've heard of the whole Martha thing with that thing before? No.
Don't think so. I haven't seen
Oh,
the only DCU film I've seen is Wonder Woman, and that's like
uh,
disconnected. So,
um,
but I'm sure I will understand someday.
yeah. But yeah, I think I do think the opening, like 10 minutes or so, is like really great, and then the rest of the film, while it has some really great moments, it feels inferior
It's
to
far too
that and
pulpy.
Deadpool.
It's far
Yeah.
too pulpy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree that I think there's too many characters as well. I think they should have just had Cable and Domino. I think that should have been it. I think. I think they should have had the cab driver should have just been in spots and not been a part of like the final sequence because he just felt like he was there and there was no real purpose
Yeah.
for him.
And is it me? But like, you know, when he was doing his fake deaths at the end, did that go on too long? Like, I was like,
it did go so long.
it was like, oh, they're really holding on this, aren't they?
Yeah,
It felt
it was
like
like 5 minutes.
that's another problem I have with the comedy in this film. It felt like they milked the jokes a lot, and that's not what you're meant to do.
Yeah, they should have had him fake his death at least once or twice, and then that's it. They did it like 3 times, and it's always like really long as well.
And also, I understand that this comes with character development, and it makes sense, but from a personal standpoint, Deadpool in this film is nowhere near the asshole he is in the first film. He's a very nice guy, and I don't know, that just for me isn't as interesting. It's I loved how in the first film his absolute asshole personality is contrasted with his anxiety, which makes him do reckless things. Whereas in this film, he's he makes some like jokes about like, you know, he's just like offensive jokes. Like he's a bit sort of naughty, but he's a nice guy, which I feel like that sort of take like I love the whole smarmy douchebag sort of CM Punk-esque part of his personality from the first film. So the fact that that's sort of toned down in this film is a bit like, you know, this feels if you take out the swearing, this Deadpool could be in like a family film, which is the only parts that keep him in this sort of genre is the fact that like it's got like blood and like his body gets ripped in half at one point, and you know there's jokes about like him having a baby penis and whatnot, but which I suppose is a nice like sort of sequel to the first film, how he had like a baby hand. But again, I do feel like I was saying before, that whole joke of him having like baby legs is very milked, feels very extended. Whereas in the first film, it's like a small little joke. He's like, "Ha ha, I'm gonna touch myself with my small hand," and then it's over, and then the next thing happens. Whereas this one, they really held on them to be like, "Look, it's funny. We're doing Deadpool humor." Yeah. And
so I will say, I think the post credit scenes I think are great. They're brilliant.
So I watched it, and I think I may have missed something important. Like, I only saw. Was there only one, or was there multiple?
There was one whole one. I think there's two. There is. I can't remember. Well, obviously because Wilson comes back alive at the end of the film, and then the post-credit scene is them. They're fiddling with the time travel device that Cable has.
Yeah.
He grabs that. Credits roll a bit more, and then he goes back in time to save his girlfriend, because the guy he missed at the beginning of the film, he then, because of the thing he threw at the wall instead of him, they changed that, and he is alive. Then he goes back in time again to save Peter, because he's like, "Oh, just go," before he goes and tries to save the guy who spills out vomit. He just says, "Hey, go away. Don't save yourself." Then he goes back in time again to X-Men Origins, where he shoots Weapon X or whatever it's called, and you see Hugh Jackman, but it's from the footage from X-Men Origins, and he shoots himself, the other Deadpool, and he's like, "I'm just fixing the timeline. There's no worries," and he just keeps shooting his body after he shoots him. Then he goes to I guess it's back in time to when Ryan Reynolds was cast as Green Lantern, and it's him at his desk at home, I assume. And Ryan Reynolds says, "Welcome to the big leagues, kid." And it's shot on the script, and it says Green Lantern. And then there's blood that spilled over it because Deadpool shoots Ryan Reynolds.
Right, I missed all that because I just saw him grab the time travel thing and then it stopped. So I was just like, "Oh, what the fuck was that?"
Well, there was more post credit scenes.
Right, okay.
And
Because I skipped past it and it was just on the credits. I was like, oh, was that it?
Hmm. Yeah, but all those are great. I would say the first one does make the whole point of like his girlfriend dying. It makes that kind of pointless now.
Oh yeah, so this film has some really fucked up plot holes with its time travel, but I feel like it doesn't.
Yeah.
That it sort of has this attitude of, oh, we don't really care. It's a Deadpool film, so we'll just have time travel be a thing, and you can just change it however you want to. Which I
Yeah.
suppose.
Plus, they use Domino's power a lot
Yeah,
to like benefit the plot.
it's not like Endgame or Days of Future Past where they actually take time travel seriously and they want to have it make
Yeah.
sense. Whereas this one, it's just like, oh, he's just got a little device you can time travel. It's easy.
Unfortunately, Endgame's time travel doesn't make a whole lot of sense in most aspects. Days of Future Past was different in that aspect because it was I think, quite clever with it. With this, it was, oh, I've got a device. I should use it.
Apart from the fact that Kitty Pryde was never a time traveling mutant, but
Yeah, yeah. But this one is like, oh, I only have two charges to get me here and to get me back, and I was like, oh, it's lazy writing. It's like, yeah, it is. But then they just like, oh, I'll stay here, and we fix her anyway.
Well,
Though it's all fixed now.
well, we'll always have Back to the Future, which again has plot holes, but we will always have Prisoner of Azkaban because that is a good time travel film.
Yeah, but the plot is going forward in the whole franchise is like, why don't we use this ever?
And then the one time they do use it again is in the book called The Cursed Child, and it's the shittest thing ever made. And it's Harry Potter's Hellbent, basically.
It's like no, wait, we're using it now, but it's in a shit book. It's like, well done, you've ruined it.
Yeah, fucking fan fiction, not even written by J.K. Rowling, and it's trash. I haven't read the book, but I had, basically when I was at film school, we had like a 2-hour break between lectures. So my friend sat me down, we got lunch, he sat me down in the lounge room, we sat at the couches, and he explained to me everything that happens in that book over the course of about 2 hours. And by the end of it, we were just depressed. It was fucking... Don't ever... If you're a fan of Harry Potter and you haven't read that book, don't read it. The Cursed Child is garbage and ruins the whole series. But, you know. Oh, well, at least we have Father's Day, which also has plot holes.
Which George has plot holes. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because
but apparently the whole Reapers thing makes people hate the episode for some reason.
Yeah, because why? Well, I know, but like, why do the Reapers not turn up in like Waters of Mars? Why don't they turn up in Moffat's era like every fucking second episode?
The easy way to fix that is says, oh, they're just bacteria. They're trying to latch on to time, like inconsistencies, and just say it doesn't always happen, but you know they are bacteria that tries to latch on to everything.
Okay, why don't they turn up in the wedding of River Song?
Yeah.
Just anyway, but yeah, just whatever.
Yeah, time travel is not done perfectly.
Yeah, it's very, very hard to get right.
Yeah.
Inception.
Well, the way
Inception.
Endgame,
Inception.
yeah.
Inception
The way Endgame could have made it work is like not having like, oh, but you have to return all the Infinity Stones and stuff. They didn't need to do that because, like, you know, the Infinity Stones get destroyed at the beginning of the film, but then they later tell us like, oh no, but we need the Infinity Stones in the universe so that the universe we're in doesn't collapse. So it's like, our universe is fine because the Infinity Stones are destroyed. So it's like,
yeah, it was destroyed for 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years we're fine. And it's like, oh,
5 years later, Iron Man has a kid and he's very happy.
Yeah. So what do you?
Captain Marvel saved them with her feminism. Universe is fine.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, what are you gonna do? Fly into the van? You don't even know what to do. Oh no, I'll fix it. I'll fix it all because I'm Captain Marvel. God, I've been watching a lot of like, I've watched the EFAP of when they cover the Legal Eagle video over the deleted scene of Captain Marvel, and it just like Jesus Christ, people are actually going to the length of making up so much bullshit about the law to say like, no, Captain Marvel is a good guy and is not bad at all. It's like, come on.
It's funny because
character.
I find it funny how like the plot hole that I thought was a plot hole was that why is Ned still young?
Yeah,
He got snapped. Like,
yeah, you got snapped. It's like no, I felt like at the time that was pretty obvious, but then there's like, oh no, there's a whole bunch of other plot holes.
it's funny because there was a video I saw on YouTube of like 7 or 8 endgame plot holes. I debunked all of them within 5 minutes. I was like, that's not a fucking plot.
Those type of videos are poorly thought out. Let's be honest. A lot of those videos are poorly thought out.
Because they're just doing it as a business. I was like, what the? None of these are plot. Like none of
it's
these.
It's like cinema sins. It's like with some of them, I like they did a episode of Friends, and I was watching. I was like, and I pretty much debunked pretty much all of them. There was someone like, oh yeah, that's fine.
The amount of times in Harry Potter they're like, Snape is a dick, and I'm like, yes, that's what makes him a good character, you idiots.
Yeah, no, that's a sin though.
It's not a sin. Snape is a dick to Harry because his father fucked his soulmate. It's very simple, and he's the seed of his hate of his bullies, like win over him. It's very sad. It's such a sad story, but no, Snape's a dick. He's mean to the main character.
Massive tangent.
Fuck off with that. I used to think they were doing it ironically, but apparently they're not.
Everyone thinks like, oh no, it's all just satire. It's like,
I thought it was a joke. I thought it was just a joke.
That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing that everyone thinks the cinema scene is like, oh no, it's just jokes. You're taking it too seriously. Like, so what about the other stuff when they actually are criticizing it? Are those jokes and they don't mean it, even though it's actual criticism? It's just like fucking fuck off.
Yeah. Anyway, we've been through one character so far. It's 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Anything else we want to say about Deadpool before we move on to?
I just think his character arc could have been better overall, though I still find him very entertaining.
Yeah, but Deadpool 1 was better.
Yeah.
Now, Cable, played by Thanos, which they actually referenced in the film.
Yeah,
that was a great joke. Josh Brolin. I think his performance is excellent. I love Josh Brolin as an actor. Though as a character, yeah.
I thought the character was fine. I think the performance was good. I wouldn't say it was fantastic. I thought it was good.
I think his introduction's quite shit, honestly.
His introduction just so happens. He's just like, here's Cable now.
Oh, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Whiplash's introduction in Iron Man 2. It's like, here's the villain.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, he's the villain. In fact, although in Iron Man 2 it's even more ridiculous, it's like, oh yeah, he's watching Tony Stark's speech. Great.
At the end of Iron Man 1, yeah.
Yeah. That's his motivation.
Cable just sort of kind of just appears in the film when there's no lead up to it. It just sort of happens. It's just
and the plot twist that he was going to save Deadpool, I could see that coming from a mile away because I had way too much time to think about it. Whereas Deadpool 1, if it was Deadpool 1, they wouldn't have given me that chance to think about it because they would have made the script tighter and made it more enjoyable. Whereas with this film, this film is shorter than Deadpool 1, yet it feels longer.
Yeah.
It's so drawn out. Especially the end. But, yeah. I mean, yeah, he lost his daughter and wife, and he's wants to kill the kid so that his daughter and wife come back, and has this plot device to do so, and then he saves Deadpool, and yay, we're a family now. But Josh Brolin's great, he's a fun actor, but I don't really have much to say about Cable. He just feels very shoehorned, sort of.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it does feel like it's trying to reference, obviously, like Terminator. I feel like it's a very like our guy from the future comes to the like past to kill someone to prevent something in the future, and it feels very Terminator esque. I just feel like it feels much lesser than
Well,
I would say.
I feel like that's a problem because what makes the comedy work in Deadpool is the fact that it's referencing something or
Mm.
it's telling a joke within a scene. Whereas with what you're doing here is you're basing an entire character within the entire film around a reference.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's not something that's gonna last for 2 hours. That's a
No.
bit, you know, I feel like that's not clever and witty, that's lazy.
Yeah.
But he's got an orange eye and he's cool and Josh Brolin's cool and he's old but looks young and muscly and he's funny and
He's
sticks
got
his
futuristic guns.
when they have a gay old hug he sticks his knife in his penis.
Yeah.
Yay, funny teenage humor.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Uh,
um, but uh, whatever. I don't know. I feel like it was a bit odd how he just sort of was the villain of the first part, and then he sort of was like, "Wait, no, I'm actually a good guy," and then they're like,
I don't
"Oh,
know why. I need someone to explain to me what makes him turn to Deadpool instead of trying to just kill Russell. I don't understand the
it's
turn
like
that he has.
the reverse of Captain Marvel, where she's like, "Oh, we're friends." No, we're not.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't. I must have missed something because I don't know why he turns to then team up with Deadpool. I don't know why. I
Mm.
must have missed something because it just feels like he just it's like, oh well, I know where you live and I need your help. He's like, oh, we need to stop Russell. It's like, I've been trying to kill Russell and you've been protecting him, so why would I go to you now? It's like, eh, it just feels very weirdly put together. I would say. I think it would make more sense if it was just Cable was the villain.
Yeah.
If they just kept it that way instead of like changing, like, oh no, but Juggernaut's the villain now at the end. And it's like,
Oh, we'll get to that.
yeah. But if this film didn't have a villain really, when you think about a main villain of this story, it didn't have one, unless you count
Yeah.
Bald Guy as the villain, but he didn't do anything. He was in it for like 3 minutes of screen time. So
Oh, there was one joke I forgot to mention that I thought was fucking hilarious from
hmm
Deadpool. Was when he had the plot device necklace on, so obviously he was dying,
yeah,
and he's like, "God, I'm just a bag of cancer. If you give me a bow and arrow, I'm basically just Hawkeye."
yeah, I love that.
He's just referencing how useless Hawkeye is as a superhero.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
bottom. I think there was in the Civil War review we're talking about how like Hawkeye tried to like threaten Vision, even though they're on opposite ends of the power scale.
Mm.
Like Hawkeye's arguably like the weakest superhero in the entire MCU, and like Vision's like the most powerful one.
Yeah.
More than Captain Marvel.
Mm.
Though he was beaten by Thanos, but yeah,
Yeah, with the Power Stone.
yeah. But whatever. Anything else to say really about Cable?
I think he has a good look. I think the design of him is really great. I think there are some CGI moments I think that are a bit iffy. I think especially in the beginning, I feel like it's a bit. It feels like his head's too big for his body at
Yeah,
times.
I like his shield. His
Yeah, I
shield's
think
cool.
it's cool. I do think his overall design is
And I
good. I
like
just
the
think there's
sort of
some moments that are a bit iff.
the gun he uses where you can turn up the settings. That's a
Yeah.
very like that's something that if you're like a kid, like you'd be like, oh yeah, that's cool.
hmm I'd always yeah you'd be like, oh, I have it at 12 all the time because that's
Here's
bigger.
the thing. Here's the thing about Deadpool 1 versus Deadpool 2. To me, Deadpool 1 feels like an R-rated superhero film, like with lots of comedy in it, and it's really good. Whereas Deadpool 2 feels like the kind of film that a bunch of like 10-year-olds would sneak past their parents to watch. But it's not like properly adult. It's like, oh, it's like a little bit edgy.
Yeah.
It's got a bunch of like blood and cocks and you know dorkish humor, but it's just not quite. It doesn't have that hard edge to it that Deadpool 1 had.
Yeah. That's I feel like, yeah, it feels lesser than Deadpool 1 in terms of it doesn't feel like it is an R-rated film, even though there's a whole bunch of instances
Yeah.
where like he gets ripped in half, his limbs come off, and then other than that, it's just like, eh.
Mm.
Like get rid of those, and then it's a PG film.
Yeah. Shall we move on to the next character?
Sure.
Right. So we've already talked about Vanessa, because she was obviously barely in it, but I thought she was good.
But the scenes she is in are great.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I missed her being in it. You
Yeah.
know what's sad is that I don't know how I thought this, but I somehow tricked myself into thinking that she was going to turn into Copycat in this film. I don't know why I thought that. I just read it somewhere online when we were doing Deadpool 1. I was like, oh, is this a spoiler for Deadpool 2? Is she going to be Copycat in it? And that would have been awesome, because I think she would have been great in this film to have as a character in the team. But nope, she's dead. But what we got was good anyway. I just, she was missed. I'll say that. She was missed.
Yeah.
Because she was one of my favorite parts of the first one. But yeah, she's still very attractive. But yeah, anyway. Then we had Russell Collins, aka Firefist, who was played by New Zealand actor Julian Dennison, who obviously was from Hunt for the Wilder People, which is a Taika Waititi film. So that was the film that made him famous, which was 2 years before this one. So I imagine they may have cast him because of that film. Like, probably the director saw that and thought, wow, I might cast this guy as this character. I'll let you go first on Fire Fist.
I think Fire Fist. I didn't mind him in my first viewing, but this viewing I felt like he was. I didn't like him that much. Not in terms of like, oh, he was being a dick and he was like destroying things. I think just as performances goes and characters goes, I think he's very uninteresting. And I think the performance isn't great. I don't think that, and maybe that might do with the accent, maybe, but I think I feel like some people could act well with a very heavy accent.
Well, I mean, it certainly wasn't a problem for you when you watched Thor Ragnarok, was it?
No, it wasn't really. And it's like, I thought all that was great. And this, it felt like the accent was very heavy-handed, and the performance with it didn't help at all. I don't think the performance was very good.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So,
and I feel like his character is very not one note, but his character was like, oh, he's alone, and he's like, he doesn't know what it means to have a family. And that's all great, but it doesn't feel like they hone in on that enough. It just feels like, oh, we need to get him because of what we know happens if he does this thing.
Yeah. So going into this film, based on what I knew about it, this was the thing that I was the most trepidatious about. Because when it comes to New Zealand comedy in Hollywood, I obviously don't have a very good track record with it. I think New Zealand humor can work brilliantly when it's put into satire, like it is with Boy or Brotown, or there's a couple of other examples. But interestingly, my feelings on this, the way it was handled in this film, are actually different to Ragnarok. Not in terms of the fact I didn't like it, but my reaction to the humor was actually very different. And what I mean by that is, with Thor Ragnarok, when the New Zealand humor was so Korg, obviously being the big example of that, with Thor Ragnarok, I found it very irritating and obnoxious and it took me out of the scene. I was like, oh, that's a bit, yuck, cringe. Whereas with this film, it didn't invoke a strong reaction. It was just very stale, and it felt flat, and just I was just like, that's a bit lame.
We're a team. We're gangster. It's like,
it's just a bit like, you can do better than that.
It's like it feels like it's trying too hard to be like he's a young, relatable kid. I feel like it's really trying a bit too hard, and it comes across as forced.
Yeah, and it's again, like it has the whole thing of like, oh, this kid basically his sense of humor is echoed through like every fucking New Zealand advert that's on TV. And I literally mean that because he is in New Zealand adverts doing this kind of humor, and it's horrible, and I hate it. But yeah, in contrast to Ragnarok, it's so bland and just it's like if Chris Chibnall tried to do New Zealand humor. It's like, God, what is that? Whereas with Ragnarok, it was at least, it's weird that I'm actually giving it a sort of almost not praise, but like looking at it in a sort of creatively positive light. But at least in Ragnarok, it was audacious, and it was like, this is what it is. This is a film about loud comedy, and it's very in your face, and this is what we're doing. 80s rock band, space adventure with large rock man that makes very childish jokes, and for me annoying, but quite confident. Whereas with Deadpool 2, I was just like, oh, all right, sort of checking my watch, waiting for the next bit to happen, because just any scene with this character, and I was just like, this is very stale and just not good. And I don't necessarily think it's the kid's fault. It's just I think he was very miscast. I feel like the only reason they did it is because the director probably saw Hunt for the Wilder People and went, oh, I want some of that. But that's not how comedy works. You actually have to be clever and do something with it, rather than just stick, hey, funny character from other film in this movie, referenced New Zealand, Ragnarok happened last year, so let's do this and get funny bits. Yeah. But I mean, if you liked it, then fair enough, like audience, but I just, once again, it's an example of New Zealand comedy used in a film that I just don't give a shit about, really. So, but yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not like it was painful. It was just very stale. It's still not, Darcy tier humor. It's still not that bad, but it's just a bit like, it just felt like I was encountering someone on the side of the street, or I was, some customer was trying to be funny and it was stupid. That's just what it felt like to me, rather than an actual character in a film. But yeah. But yeah, I thought that Deadpool 2 was going to be one of those films where everything else was like Deadpool 1, it was great, but then he would be the standout, like, sort of piece of dirt in it that I didn't like. Whereas I think the film overall has problems, so I'm not as disturbed by it. If that makes sense. Didn't piss me off the way I thought it would. It just sort of deflated my interest. And that's basically all I've got to say, really.
Yeah, I just never felt attached to the character. I never felt like I cared about the character.
I never felt like he had a connection with Deadpool either. They never felt like they were on the same page.
We're a team. We need a secret code name or whatever. It's like, wasn't very enthusiastic about it, and I feel like it's.
I also feel
I think
I'm not.
Concept, it could have been better. Execution, it was poor.
I'm not 100% sure on who wrote his lines. I guess we'll find out later. But also, if you're going to have an American try to do New Zealand humor, that's never going to work. Like, never. You have to have someone that actually understands how the humor works to do it. Like, for example, Taika Waititi, where he's got some underprivileged kid who's had a horrible life, who's never met his father, yet he comes to school and tells his friends, my dad's the best guy in the world. He taught me all the Michael Jackson dance moves, and it's like it's quite funny because he's imagining his father as this great thing. And he's like I'm cool like my dad. But with this, it's just like, what? Where's the funny part? Oh yeah, he's funny because he does a weird dance or something, or I don't know. I can't even tell you.
That from RoboCop. So
Yeah. Reference. Ha ha. But yeah, I don't have much else to say about Fire Fist. Yeah. Shall we move on to the next character, I suppose?
Yeah.
So we got Domino, who was... God, I'm trying to remember who that was. Was that the...
There was the girl who was very lucky.
Oh! God, I forgot she even existed. Yeah, that character. She's on the poster, isn't she?
Yeah, she's one of the main three on the poster.
God,
It's Cable, it's Deadpool, Cable, and her.
Is she really a main character though? Like she's barely.
She's in the second half a lot.
She's sort of
the one
there.
that survives.
Well, she's there, but like, I don't know.
I just felt like she. Well, I like the actress, but I feel like that they used her power to be like, oh, we're moving the plot this way, and it's going to be easy because we've explained, hey, she's just lucky.
It's funny because she's sort of meant to play the sidekick role, yet she's like heavily featured on the poster. Yeah, I would say like because the role she plays in this film is almost in terms of its where she's placed in sort of the hierarchy of team characters. She's meant to be like Falcon is in the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Yet I feel like Falcon has way more to do in that film than she does in this.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that.
Yeah. Though I think that's partly to do with the fact that Winter Soldier is just overall a much better film, in my opinion, than this is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, just sort of forgettable for me. I didn't really care for her at all. She was just sort of a character, and she was in it, and she did stuff.
Yeah. Like, they obviously did the jokes of like, oh, she's very lucky. It's like, oh, that's not a power. And then it's like, oh, she's lucky in a pretty poorly CGI sequence. I think it's very clearly CGI. And then like I didn't like the final act a lot because I felt like that the music they had behind it was very lackluster. It was just
we'll get to the
poor music choice.
I've got things to say about the music, but yeah. But yeah, I know the CGI sequence you mean. Jesus, it was weird.
Yeah, when like she's like running across the street and there's a car that goes overhead, but then it's like it crashes everywhere.
It felt like the Doctor Strange CGI, but without the manipulation. It felt just normal.
Yeah,
it's weird, very warped, and the shapes didn't move properly. It was quite animated. It felt like it just didn't have enough motion to it. It was very strange. But yeah, I don't know, just whatever. I don't really have anything to say about her. She was just sort of in the film, and she drove the car.
And then didn't drive the car because of Lady Luck.
Yeah. God, this film has so many fucking plot conveniences. But it doesn't reference them as much as it should, considering this is a film that's meant to be self-aware. Yeah, it's not really.
Yeah.
Like, this is the problem: is when you do a film that's about being self-aware, yeah, it has so many problems that it doesn't acknowledge. It then doesn't become self-aware.
Mhm.
It becomes self-deprecating. Um, then Weasel was back, and I feel like in this film his sort of purpose was a bit less interesting.
I feel like they took the joke of him too far. I think in Deadpool 1, he's like great because they get him in little batches, and every scene he's in is like
Yeah,
extremely funny.
yeah.
And then in this film, they take it a bit too far.
So in Deadpool 1 review, I said this is a character that could easily have gone wrong, but because they carefully handled it, it actually went quite well. Whereas in
And
this
then
one,
it went wrong.
yeah, then it went wrong in this one. So there you go.
It's just like I want to be a consummate killer. It's like, oh, okay. Um, he gets frustrated when Peter gets into the group, and it's like, oh, he's frustrated,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh, he kills someone at the end. He's like, I guess that's an arc. I guess that's a story arc for a
And
character.
he heavily contributed to a lot of the forced comedy.
Mm.
Like usually the forced comedy in this film happened to be when he was in it, where there was just like, oh, let's add an extra line in here. Oh, let's add another line. Oh, let's add another line in here. Oh, this is all funny. Let's add another line. It's just like, oh, just control yourself. You don't have to have like 10 jokes in a row.
Yeah.
Uh, and then there was Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
Who was barely in it.
Yeah, I like her sort of little thing with her. What's her girlfriend's name?
I can't remember the new girlfriend's name,
Is it?
but yeah,
Oh, it's she's supposed. Oh, Yukio, isn't it?
yeah, that's it, Yukio. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
I
like,
thought that was funny. I thought
yeah,
that was pretty funny.
yeah, that was a nice little thing, but it didn't really. It wasn't really enough to carry the film, but I
Yeah,
thought their little
yeah.
thing was
They're like
interesting.
her and Colossus are in this film so much less than the first one. It's a real shame because they're great when they're in it
Yeah.
for the
Well,
most part. But
part of what made her interesting in the first film was that how she was introduced and like how Deadpool was like, "What the fuck? Why is your name Negasonic Teenage Warhead? Like, why are
yeah,
you some weird goth and why are you more powerful than Colossus?"
yeah.
It was interesting. Like, it was almost like it was like, "What the hell's going on here? This is such a strange mutant." Whereas in this film, it's like, "Oh, yep, she's there, and it's a little bit funny, and yay, cool."
Yeah, I feel like they should have been in the film way more, and it's a real shame.
Mm. Um,
Especially when they're introducing so many different characters. Feels like, oh, well, why then in this film just not have him in the film?
mhm.
Because I don't feel like there's any point. They didn't need. I guarantee they didn't need to have them in the film, and they could have had the characters they had deal with the problems at the end of the film, and if it would have been fine.
Mhm.
You would
This
have. You could be like, oh, I wish they were in the film, but at least they weren't wasted if they were.
Yeah, this film desperately needed some focus, and it went down the X-Men route of, oh, let's have lots of characters for no reason.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
funny because like we don't have any actual X-Men other than them two, but then even they get wasted like most X-Men characters have been.
mhm. Then you had uh, Black Tom Cassidy.
That was the prison guy that they kept referring to, and then Cable shoots him, and then Dad was like, "Oh, you racist," and I was like, that was the joke.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I
It
know
was
the
a
one.
guy who like beat him up at the beginning when they first got to
Yeah,
prison.
yeah. Apparently he was meant to have a more prominent role, but they spent the budget on Juggernaut instead.
Yeah.
Which yeah, Juggernaut.
Cool.
It's not Vinnie Jones this time.
Yeah, it's better, but it's not worth it. I don't think, because I think the CGI for Juggernaut was pretty meh. I think it's very
Mm.
clearly
It's
CGI.
funny because Deadpool actually references that. He's like, "Oh yeah, this is
Big
the
CGI fight coming up, and it's like
yeah
it's bland.
yeah the CGI doesn't even look that interesting."
Yeah, I think the fight is just so underwhelming with him and Colossus. I
Yeah.
don't like it.
Um, but is it better or worse than X-Men 3 where he's like, "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch."
Oh, it is better, but it's not. It's still not great. It's just
Yeah.
okay. It's
The
fine.
best part, no, the best part about Juggernaut in this film is when he rips Deadpool in half. That was
That's
pretty.
great. That's
Yeah.
great.
But I don't really understand. Like again, another thing that's underdeveloped in this film is I don't know. I don't understand why Fire Fist suddenly was like, "I'm with Juggernaut now."
Yeah.
It felt very forced.
Yeah.
Mm. Again, like you said, there was no real antagonist in this film, and I feel like that's part of its problem. Whereas with the first film, you had Ed Skrein's character, who was so good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put you in this pod and make you suffocate. It was great. Menacing. Colossus was in it, and he was fine.
Wish he was in it more, and the fight
Yeah.
was pretty underwhelming.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, we're gonna fight dirty now. It's like, well, you didn't really have an arc to build up to that, so you're just like, oh, I'm gonna fight dirty now.
Yeah. We also had Blind Al return, the elderly roommate.
Funny, same as the first one, but
Yeah, I felt like the jokes in the first one were way better though.
oh yeah, I thought it was way better.
It's just I think again it's that whole thing of we need to have like 10 jokes, like more jokes rather than focus on it.
Yeah.
It just it's frustrating. Though I fucking love when he like he's trying to steal his own cocaine from her house. And then she sits down and he starts speaking. She pulls out a gun. She's like, "Jesus Christ! I nearly shot you."
What the fuck?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
that was good. And then we also had obviously the taxi driver Depender. I feel like he again talking about the humor becoming more forced. I feel like his humor was so much more forced in this film than it was in the first. Like I fucking loved him in the first film. I thought he was great. And this one he was still funny, but it just felt so forced. Like they tried to really hammer down his humor.
Yeah. It went too far.
Mm. Like the scene where he runs over the guy. What's his name? The
bald guy that I recognize from The World's End, and that's about it.
I can't remember his character name. I can't even.
He was bald, and he was just like, "Oh, I'm a creepy pedophile person who hates mutants."
Yeah, and he gets run over.
Yeah, in pretty badly CGI again. Again, this film has quite a few moments of bad CGI.
I think maybe because it has too much CGI.
Yeah, it does. It even though it's not, I don't think it's heavily relying on it. The CGI they do use is pretty.
Oh my god! I didn't realize this. Vanisher was played by Brad Pitt.
Yeah, it was. When you look at him, it shows him as Brad Pitt.
What the hell?
He gets electrocuted, and I was like, that is funny because they hired Brad Pitt to play someone invisible. Or at least in the continuity, Vanisher it's meant to look like Brad Pitt, but he's obviously invisible. But then he gets electrocuted, you see him. Oh
yeah. Another thing is, obviously, it was revealed that this Professor X that was in this film was James McAvoy's Professor X. So what point in the timeline is this?
Well, no, oh god, oh god, yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Because it's not Patrick Stewart, and Patrick Stewart's there in like 2000. And if you count Origins as canon, it's like
I get it is just for a joke, but it's like now it's like but
God.
it is a joke.
Oh god!
It is a joke to be fair. On we never see anybody else.
Oh no! Yeah. X-Men continuity. What's going on here?
It was gone a long time ago.
Quicksilver's still a teenager.
Yeah.
What? Oh god! Is it still like what, the 80s, the 90s?
No, because it's no, that wouldn't make any sense. Because Deadpool is clearly in the 21st century. It's very
Oh,
clearly in the 2010s.
but Patrick Stewart's old as fuck in X-Men 1. He's
Hmm.
like in his 60s. James McAvoy's like in his 30s or 40s.
Yeah.
What's
And
going on
he's
here? Why does the series not make sense?
uh,
Oh, God. Oh, fucking this fucking franchise, man. This franchise. And we're still not finished. We've still got Dark Phoenix
we've got
left.
one more to go, and
Oh,
that's colossal
what
fuck.
what an absolute mess. Like honestly, like this has got to be one of the most like messiest franchises ever made.
Oh yeah,
Because you know,
100%.
because like obviously like Despicable Me is like a money grab. Twilight's absolute garbage, but this could have been great. Like X-Men could have been something really special,
And it wasn't.
and it wasn't. And individual films, yeah, Logan and Deadpool are great films. Days of Future Past is
Days of Future
really
Past is great.
yeah, Days of Future Past is a great film by itself. But when you look at the series as a whole, Jesus
It's
Christ.
shit.
Even Logan, which is like a 10 out of 10 film, has a fucking plot hole in it. A massive plot hole with the sword. It's like, how did the sword get there if the timeline was reset? Where is the Japanese guys from the Wolverine? God, it's such a mess.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake. Oh, what the hell? Apparently Brad Pitt was considered for the role of Cable.
But they went for Josh Brolin, and they're like, oh, well, let's hire Brad Pitt as a joke anyway.
It's interesting because they talked about how Brad Pitt couldn't do it because of scheduling issues, yet this came out like around the same time as Infinity War.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. It came out in May 2018 and Infinity War came out in April 2018. I assume this must have been filmed after, but then wasn't Endgame filmed after Infinity War?
I don't know.
Well, it's fucking I don't know how they figured that out. Josh Brolin must have had a busy year.
Yeah.
Anyway. Uh, there was a Stan Lee cameo, but it wasn't his actual body. It was just like a painting of him on a brick wall,
Yeah.
which was, I suppose, that was nice. But it's sad because his cameo in the first film was so funny.
He did do when they did like a announced trailer for this film, he was in that, which was pretty funny.
Right. Was it like a deleted scene, or was he in just like a separate?
No, it was the I think it was the announcement trailer for Deadpool 2.
Oh yeah. But yeah, any other characters we really want to talk about?
Um, I don't think so. Not that I can remember on the top of my head.
Hmm. Yeah, overall, I just gotta say, like, this film feels like it was leading into franchise rather than its own thing,
Yeah.
which disappointed me.
Like they even make a joke is like we need people who are young enough to carry this franchise for 5 to 10 years. Just like, yeah, all right, cool. Yes, that's funny.
Yeah. All right. So this film is written by Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick, who are both, I assume, because the text is in purple on Wikipedia, I assume were both on the first one. And obviously Ryan Reynolds did some of the writing as well. Nowhere near as witty, a lot more forced. I would even dare to say that this film may have had some studio interference as well.
Maybe.
This felt very controlled rather than
Which is weird because we don't know where the X-Men franchise is going to go now because it's now owned by Disney.
yeah. It felt very controlled, and sadly, it wasn't the work of art that the first one was. Despite the fact that Adam says it's overrated. You saw that, right? You saw.
Oh yeah, no, I watched the whole thing. So yeah, I was like, really though, this is better than Deadpool 1. I mean, we're complaining about it a lot and we have a lot of problems, but I think we can say this still is a good film. I still
Yeah,
think it's a good film.
yeah, it's a good
It's
film.
just it's just really not as good as the first one.
The first film is oh
It's
basic
way
plot.
more
Right.
focused and it's
Basic plot. I can understand basic plot. I can understand that.
but it's
Subjectively,
focused.
subjectively, if you're not into the kind of humor that about like touching your penis with a small hand, fine, fine. But apart from that, what's wrong with it? It's great. It's a great
Yeah.
film.
It
Um,
has an actual villain.
yeah,
It has a villain. It has two villains, really. Let's be honest. But one of them's like the side villain. That's fine because they don't force it down your throat. They're just like, oh, she's cool. She's like super strong as Colossus, and that's cool. It's
mm.
just like it almost feels better that Deadpool has like a limit on it. I feel like
Oh
it
yeah.
does feel very basic, but
It's
then they
oh,
use that
it's so
because
filled to the brim because it's contained and focused and just wonderful.
yeah,
This felt like an X-Men film, but with like a comedy X-Men film with Deadpool in it.
yeah. It's like a really good X-Men Origins.
Yeah. Mm.
I mean,
Anyway,
it's still better than a lot of the other X-Men films, but it still has a lot of problems.
yeah. But yeah, the writing was nowhere near as sharp. It was very drawn out and quite irritating, and it was messy in the second act.
Hmm.
But still competent. It still worked, but it's just ah, why couldn't it have been as good as the first one?
Yeah, I really wish this episode was a lot better.
Ep-
This story, sorry,
mm,
this whole thing. I think the story could have been better. I think the character arcs could have been a lot better. I think Russell's, I think in concept could have been really good, but the execution was really poor.
mm,
And I think there's some characters I feel like should have been in it more than others, and there should some characters that should have been in it at all.
yes. Now, um, one thing that may be a big reason this is different is because it has a different director.
Yeah, I
It's
noticed that it had a different director.
David Leitch, which is different to Deadpool 1. What was Deadpool 1 again?
Tin Miller was it?
I think so. I'm just gonna have a check. Yeah, Tim Miller was the first one. Um, and yeah, Tim Miller. So I would say, in some ways, a step down for me. I just don't think that David Leitch understands Deadpool the way that Tim Miller did.
Yeah.
I mean, it still felt like it was in the same series, but it just, oh, the way it was shot was fine, but
I think the opening was really well directed.
yeah, yeah, it was. Actually, no, you're right. It was. There were some really nice set pieces in this film in terms of like aesthetic, but the first Deadpool, the character direction in that film is so good. Like the way it focuses on people's faces, the way it shows not
Yeah,
rather than
like
telling.
yeah. Yeah, like when he gets told he has cancer, and then you get the shot of him just looking at his girlfriend, and it's just almost like just hear humming basically, and you get the narration that he has. It's like that stuff is great. We don't have any of that in this, apart from maybe the beginning. Like the beginning, I think the prologue is fantastic, and then
Yeah.
after that, it just takes a nosedive in
Yeah,
quality.
it has, and the direction overall has so much schlocky action.
You know what it's like? It's like Idiot's Lantern because it has a really great opening, and then
Mm.
it completely nosedives after that.
Yeah, well,
That's what it's like.
I would
Not
say
in terms of like, not in terms of Deadpool. It's like, oh, it's shit throughout after that. It's
yeah,
like I'm just talking about the incredible nosedive of
yeah.
quality.
Actually, you got a
comparing the
point.
two.
Actually, you got a point there because Deadpool nosedives right after the title sequence, and the
Yeah,
title sequence in Deadpool actually happens quite a bit into the film. everything before the title sequence is great, just like Idiot's Lantern.
Yeah, I think that's a good comparison.
What scene in this film do you reckon is the equivalent of the Elvis bike scene?
Um,
I suppose when Firefist is introduced.
yeah. I would say that in terms of that stuff that I really didn't like is when he was like, "Damn, it feels good to be bad," or whatever he says. So I'm getting used to this and stuff like that at the end of the film. I think that's the equivalent in terms of like, oh, come on, it's a bit too much.
Yeah. But yeah, no, David Leitch, there were some highlights, but overall, too much action schlock, not enough focus on the characters.
Like, a bit too much filler.
Yeah,
It's like series
it was
4,
so
but the filler isn't great.
yeah, or it was so the direction was just so franchisey. It was so franchisey.
Yeah, there were, and I think the direction throughout post the
Yeah.
prologue, I think is pretty either
And
pretty
also
average or bad.
and also like not just comparing to Deadpool, but obviously we just watched Logan last week, and Jesus
Yeah.
Christ,
I
this
don't
is
know why
nothing.
they changed the director for this film. Why did they change the director? There must have been a reason.
Yeah.
Like, because that doesn't make sense to me.
I suppose they will find out in the trivia, but yeah, the just
Maybe.
a definite step down in the direction.
Yeah.
It just it's so
It doesn't feel
standard.
focused, like we said.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel focused.
And then in terms of the score, I don't think it was the same score either, because Jesus Christ,
What I will say though, before we go into it, I do like at the final like sequence they did have like a very epic dramatic score, but it was like saying "Holy shit balls," like that was the lyrics of that, and it was like that's quite funny. But then the actual like modern culture music they used for the fight scenes, I thought was pretty bad.
Yeah, so the first film was scored by Tom Holkenborg, and it was great. It was such a good score. This film was scored by a man called Tyler Bates, who I've heard.
Did? Oh, he's done the Guardians films. He did those 2 Guardians films.
Oh yeah, so he has experience with putting
Yeah.
like pop culture tracks into films. I think Deadpool 2, Guardians 2. Yeah, he did those.
No, you could argue James Gunn was really the reason for the pop songs in Guardians because he knows how to use them.
I thought that the score in this film was really not good. I did not like it. It was the comedic score was like nails on a chalkboard, like how it was like one of the things that I really don't like about forced comedy is how the score has to dip, and then it's like, this is the moment where you laugh.
Do you think that's why people hate the beginning of End of Time because of the music when David Tennant walks out the TARDIS?
Yes,
I think that's like an example of it. Yeah.
I think. Oh, I won't spoil what I mean, but I think someone we were talking to recently mentioned that about.
And I'm
Murray
like,
Gold's,
you know what? That's fair enough.
Murray Gold's silly music. Yeah, as much as I love Tennant, that's not a good scene.
Plus, I feel like, to be fair, I think it's also the shift in tone from like Waters of Mars to End of Time is like, it's like you shouldn't open. While I like End of Time, the opening is really, really badly done. Apart from, I would say, the Ood kind of parts of it, but then it's like as soon as like the prison blows up, it's like, okay, now we're getting away from that now.
The thing is, the joke of him like locking his TARDIS like a car would work in any other episode, not this one, not his fucking regeneration story where he's just
like,
come
for
off
example,
a suicide. A woman just killed herself, and you're like, I lock it like a car. You get it? It's a funny joke. It's a car.
If that joke would have worked, like for example, in like Unicorn and the Wasp, for example, like he's showing off to Donna, for example, and Donna isn't impressed.
Yeah.
that would work so much better because it works well with Donna and Tennant in that episode, in the tone of that episode, and not in the End of fucking Time.
And then you got fucking Murray Gold's music going.
Yeah.
And it's it's a bit weird. And again, like I love Murray Gold, and on his best day he is brilliant, but sometimes, like the end of the Idiot's Lantern, Not good.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
like Deadpool 2, the score in this film pissed me off, especially in the comedic scenes, because it was so forced. It's
Though I
that.
do, I did like the very opening where it's like, especially since it's the film after Logan, you have the little like thing with Logan through like the spike,
Oh,
and
that's,
Deadpool presses it. It's
honestly,
that's funny.
honestly, I think what makes this film disappointing is that was the funniest part of the whole film, was the very start when he's like,
Yeah, I
"What the
love
fuck?
that.
He
I
got
thought
to
it was
die in
great.
his own. He got to die in his film. Well, guess what? I'm gonna die too."
But then he doesn't. He gets brought back to fucking life.
Uh,
So you fucking liar. I hated it. Like, and they do the whole family film thing was
you know,
so prevalent because they said at the beginning of the film, Dad was like, "This is a family film." It's like, yeah, very clearly, you should have
oh,
taken it in a different direction.
in the last few months, we've had a few films where it's like, "Oh yeah, this is a subversive part, or this is a subversive film in general." I feel like this is just building up for when we get to the Star Wars reviews, and that's when I'm really
Yeah.
gonna
Oh, but
open up.
even with this one, it's like the subversion. It tells you from the beginning. It's like, oh, this is a family film. It's like, even though its tone is like all over the place, it's like, oh yeah, it's a family film, just very poorly executed.
Yeah, so that pisses me off because when I saw that at the start, I'm like, that's funny because Deadpool's fucking, it's not a family film. But then I watched the film, I'm like, no, it is. What the hell? I've been
Yeah,
subverted in a
it's
bad way.
very, in a really bad way. Ugh.
But yeah, fuck the score. I not like untalented music, but what in execution spoils
Well,
spoils the drama and the comedy. It's so
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the pop music choice for the final battle, is like,
I
it's
hate.
so terrible.
I, I was completely taken out of the film when they played Bangarang. I was like, what is? It's like, oh yeah, it's a funny joke. It's about dubstep, but like, I was like, what the fuck? It was so loud and obnoxious, and it
Yeah,
just
I liked when he says like, one, is dubstep still a thing? It's like, oh no, that's funny, but then you're like, oh, dubstep's for pussies, and it's just like, and then it plays dubstep. It's like,
actually
okay.
plays actual Bangarang. I'm like, oh god.
It's like, come on.
And honestly, for 2018, that song is like at that time is like 6 years old, so that's a bit cringe.
Yeah.
At least the Amazing Spider-Man, whilst it played pop music that I hate, at least it was new. At least it was new pop music at the time, whereas this, like,
Oh, itsy bitsy spider dubstep. It's like, come on. Even then, there's like, that's still shit.
oh, that's the second one. Yeah, the second one's
Yeah.
there's nothing good about the second one. But
No.
the first Amazing Spider-Man film, whilst I absolutely hate that it played songs that I hear at work, at least when the film came out, those songs were new. Whereas with this film, you've got Bangarang, which is like 6 years old at that point, and by that point, I think everyone had started to realize that Skrillex was out of fashion. So the reference is very like not clever, which is the opposite of what you want in a Deadpool film. Deadpool's meant to be clever.
It's meant to be timeless in a sense, but at the same time, with that mix of what era it is made in.
But you know what is timeless? Logan, and that's why it's a great film.
Yeah, that's why it's
Because
bloody fantastic.
100 years from now, it's still going to be a great film.
Yep. Because it doesn't rely on the era it's in. It's like anybody can understand it. Like, it uses Western films to like make the comparison between the two films and the two genres. Like, that makes it so timeless.
What makes it timeless as well is you don't have to have seen the Western films that they're watching to understand. You just have to. The only thing you have to know is you have to understand Western culture. That's it. That's all you have to know. You just have to know what cowboys are and like what they're like. That's
the whole theme of running into the sunset at the very end is like that sort of like thing, and that's what that's what Logan was.
And then like in Hollywood film culture, walking into the sunset is like biblical. It's very well known. So yeah, but no, score for Deadpool 2 did not work for me.
Nope.
Are we ready to move on to the trivia, or do you want to say something else about the direction, writing?
Just I wish the direction was more like the opening sequence. I really did, because when I watched it, I was like, holy shit, this is actually really fucking cool. Like, this is really well done. It's actually quite dramatically done. It's like, it's a lot more serious, and I do like that. I just
Well,
wish it went in that direction more and had those, like, that sort of cinematography feel.
honestly, I know the trivia is probably going to reveal the truth. It wouldn't surprise me if the original director did the first like part and then he left, and then David Leitch did
Well,
the
we'll
rest.
find out.
Yeah, because
If that's not the case, then that's poor because the director put all his sockets into the first bit, and then the rest of the film he just sort of winged it. It seemed.
yeah, whereas the entire of Deadpool 1 is like the opening sequence, and it's great.
Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic.
A captivating, brilliant film.
Yeah, Deadpool 1 is not overrated. If you think it's overrated, then you. If you think Deadpool 1 is awful, you don't know what good writing is.
He catches a dart.
You don't understand good writing. He shoots three people in the face. That makes it great.
It's not.
At the
It's
same
not just.
time.
It's not just about breaking the fourth wall and having sex
Yeah.
with your girlfriend. Like it's so
Yeah.
much more.
And then her having sex with you. So
Like that's. I mean, like that's all. That's all dice and all. Like, like
so it's just funny shit jokes.
yeah, yeah. It's enjoyable surface level stuff. Yeah, but there's so much more to Deadpool 1 than just.
Yeah.
Penis
It's an actually
vagina.
emotional story. It's an
Penis,
actual story.
penis and
It's an,
vagina.
it's
Anyway.
an actual like fully fledged story that has actual arcs and actual character motivation. This doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's weird because this is sort of I really liked this film like before the rewatch and before we've done this, and now it's like, well, I still like it. It's like, yeah, this actually has a lot of problems,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of problems.
Yeah. Ah, okay. So now I know why the plot hole exists. The footage, and I knew this when I saw it. I'm like, that has got to be a chroma key or like
Yeah.
an
Oh, it was very
insert.
clearly what that was. Yeah.
The footage of X-Men closing the door was shot on the set of Dark Phoenix.
Wait, they filmed Dark Phoenix when that. Oh wow. Okay, but yeah.
So that
a,
is that.
a little preview into what is to come.
So
Even
we
though
know
that part was good.
So we know those characters are in it now. Great.
Yay.
Fucking great.
I can't wait to have a film with Sophie Turner as starring and as the main character.
I can't wait to see the epic finale to this series. Oh boy. The one we've all
God,
been
it is. It's the fucking last film of this franchise. It's the last film. Like I knew that it was, but now that I'm like really thinking about it, it's like, yeah, it's like in terms of like context, it's like this is what it's in terms of the structure, it's like this is what it's all been building up to. This is the conclusion of the X-Men franchise. It's like, and we're ending it with Dark Phoenix. Well,
you could have
a 19-year franchise is ending like this. 19 years.
You could have ended it with Logan, which is
and
legitimate,
fantastic.
Which is one of the best films I've ever seen in my life. Mm-hmm. But no, you're going to end it with Dark Phoenix, which people say is one of the worst films.
Yeah. Like, if it ended with Logan, then this franchise would be way better because it'd be like, well, it had a really, really poor start. Not terrible, there were terrible films, but there were some elements of good quality there. But it ended so good. And then people will remember it better. But it's ending with Deadpool 2, which is a good film, but lesser quality than Deadpool 1. And then Dark Phoenix was a shit sequel to a shit film of Apocalypse. So, like... What is... It's like...
The fourth film in a strand of prequels that don't even...
aren't even great, and the second two...
They're not even prequels because the timeline's been reset, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're not canon. It doesn't matter. What's the point? I am dreading next week when we have to watch that piece of shit.
Yeah, it's gonna be something.
Now, it may end up being terrible, but the real question is Is it as bad as Captain Marvel and the Amazing Spider-Man 2? That
It
is
could be. It could be. I guarantee you it'll be in that on that level. It'll be worse than Apocalypse, even though Apocalypse is fucking trash. But it will.
Apocalypse was 2.5, so that's
Did we
a
both give
very
it 2.5s?
yeah.
I thought I gave it a 3.5. That shows how forgettable that film is. I forgot what rating I gave it.
Oh no, you said it was like Dark World, but it's in a bad series, which makes it worse. Because at least,
Oh yeah.
Because you're like, at least Dark World has like Thor and Loki and like
The film is so forgettable. The film is so forgettable. I forgot what I talked about it. That's how fucking forgettable it is.
We talked about Series 7 for most of it.
Yeah. 45 minutes of that review is talking about other stuff that is better or at least on par.
Series 7.
Yeah. Series 7.
Yeah.
It's not good. Stop saying Series 7 is good and meaningful. It's fucking not.
Series 7 is like a pointless stain on the floor, and it's probably the worst series in all of Doctor Who, yet it's probably even then still better than Apocalypse because
at least, you get John Hurt in it.
Yeah. At least you get Matt Smith in a cowboy hat.
Yeah.
You get some nice...
There's some elements of good direction in some places, yes.
Aaron Gillen's hot.
I would say their final scene is great.
Although so is Jennifer Lawrence, but that's besides the point. But
yeah, but she's poorly acted.
You get Karen Gillan and Jenna Coleman. Very clever. I was thinking that people like Karen Gillan and Jenna Coleman, so I thought, why don't we have both in the same series?
Why does Stephen Moffat sound like Avi Arad?
They're all the same to me. They've ruined everything. Avi Arad's like, Jenna Coleman, hot, money.
Yeah, they ruined stuff that was once great, if not one of the best things in media.
I was thinking, why don't we make her every companion?
Yeah.
And then
Doctor Who used to be so great. It used to be so great, and now it's not.
Wait with you, Sunshine.
I missed the days of 2005 to 2010. I really do. God, I really hope Series 12 it subverts our expectations and is good. No, I really am hoping. It
needs to turn his like Torchwood brain on and do something interesting rather than
like everyone's complaint of people's like, oh, you just want to hate it. It's like, no, I really want this to be good. I want it to be great. I want this to be the best series of Doctor Who, even though I don't ever think it will be better than series 1, 3, and 4. I still think it could be great, and I hope it is, but I'm not confident. The beginning of next year is going to be something. It's going to be a start to the year. That's for sure.
Well, it's a new decade, 2020.
Yeah, we have to see how it starts.
And also, the Advent calendar will be over.
Yeah.
Which is a little hint for you people that are watching. You few. Actually, what's interesting, I was about to say something along the lines of that these don't get as many views, but X-Men 3...
Yeah, and it has 6 dislikes for some reason.
Yeah, it's in my
people fucking hated it.
It's in my top 6 most viewed videos now.
Yeah, it's in the top 6. Yet there's 6 people who disliked it and hated it, even though X-Men 3 is shit.
It's like Dalek, Parting of the Ways, Christmas Invasion, Woman Who Fell to Earth.
I think Woman Fell to Earth is 5th, and then it's
I think
there's something else there.
Oh, Rose
is like, because it's the first episode you reacted to. So some reason X-Men Last Stand is in the top 6 now for some reason.
It's got picked up at the algorithm, honestly.
Yeah, and people hate it apparently. People hated our review on it.
It's a shit film. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. It'd be great if those people actually commented on why our review was bad for some reason.
But it's just a bland I mean, actually, no. Maybe they thought it was like a 1 out of 10, and we're like, nah, it's like a 5 or a 4.
We did give it that. That's pretty high, to be fair.
The reason why is because it didn't invoke any hatred. It was just bland and stupid.
And that might be to do with our investment in the series at that point, even though it was like the third
Whereas
film.
with Apocalypse, I'm just like, I'm not even entertained. This is just shit. Whereas with X-Men,
it's like when you're.
Yeah. Whereas X-Men 3, I was entertained because it's like, Logan and Magneto and Professor X, and it's like, oh, there's stuff happening, and there's big bush lasers and battles, and it's Magneto's lifting a bridge, and it's fun, but just bad. It's just a bad film. Whereas with Apocalypse, I'm like, I don't even want to watch this. I can't stick my eyes to this. It's just god awful.
Yeah, I started watching for like 10 minutes during it, and I was just like, oh, I have to go back to it.
It's like you said, like Dark World, or like the Battle of Ranskorav Kolos, where it's just a fucking slog to get through. It's like, can't bear to watch this.
Yeah.
Battle of Ranskorav.
It all comes to an end with Dark Phoenix. The ultimate conclusion.
Tim Shaw. He's made of teeth.
God, that was... Thinking back, even though I thought the concept of him was pretty cool, thinking back, he was a pretty shit villain.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Series 11 has shit villains in general, honestly.
Yeah.
It's funny, because, like, I on my first review, I think I gave Rosa some praise for its, like, plot structure, and some of its acting, and some of its...
I don't like Rosa. I keep going back and forth with Rosa, but I don't think it's good. I think people way overhype it.
But at the time when I watched it, I enjoyed it, a lot of it. But then, whenever I think about it now, I'm like, Krasko was actually a piece of shit villain, wasn't he? Like, he was just so pointless and stupid.
I thought the actor was pretty okay.
Yeah, he reminds me of Cesaro. He looks like Cesaro.
Yeah.
He's like Cesaro.
He does, but yeah. With hair, though.
It was cool because I was like, oh, he's a time agent. Maybe this links to Captain Jack somehow, but no, it's just...
I just stole that.
Yeah. And also because I have a 99% sneaking suspicion the entire Krasko plot was written by Chibnall and not Mallory Blackman. That's probably why it was not good. Because he's like, his whole plot, how it ends, is probably, for me, the weakest part of that episode, because it just goes nowhere.
So the scene between him and the Doctor, I thought was pretty cool. I thought that was right.
Yeah, I mean, she's a little bit trying hard to be tough.
Yeah,
but it's not.
I mean,
terrible.
like the face, like the face she pulls after she sonics him is like, oh, that's pretty childish, like Chody is for most of Series 11.
Yeah, I mean, she's just not. I mean, it's not a slighting. It's just in terms of her casting, she's not really fit for the whole "and I'm gonna intimidate you" role. That's not really who she is. She's more like she's meant to be on the receiving end of the pressure rather than giving out the pressure, which is why the Witchfinder's scene works, because she's actually in a vulnerable position.
Yeah, when I think back to that scene, that's pretty bloody good.
Yeah.
Though I will say the best part about Rosa was the TARDIS materializing at the beginning. That was great.
I always toss up on like what my favorite episode of Series 11 is, because they all have such massive problems. Like the Witchfinders, I really like King James and the Doctor and like some of the stuff with that. But then I think in like the last 10 minutes, it's all just
I still would argue that it takes you away. It's the most creative and out there episode and it's the least boring.
It is, but I find the negatives drag it down to like the same level as all the others, which is annoying because I want it to be a great episode. It's fucking frustrating. It's like, this is the only episode from Series 11 where it's like, you've got like an awesome concept, you've got a drama with Graham and Grace, you've got some awesome visuals, it's weird, it's wacky, there's plot twists, there's a little thing in the middle, there's a frog. It's like, wow, this is quite creative. It's sort of like a Doctor Who novel from the 90s mixed with a Douglas Adams episode. But then you look at the negatives, I'm like, God, why does this have to be here? Why is the Doctor such a bad character? Why is Yaz so pointless? Why is the direction so off? Why is the scenes intercutting? Why is the pacing weird? It's just like, God, can you not just do one good episode, please? Just one episode where everything works. Because then you got Demons of the Punjab, which has some neat little historical stuff. The music's great, the aesthetics great.
But Yaz is useless.
Yaz is useless. The murder stuff's good, but then the Doctor is terrible. The Sonic Screwdriver is terrible. The villain plot has no meats to an end. It's just fuck. And then you get and then you get, I don't know what the other one I talk about. I suppose we said Rosa already. And then you get Kablam, which I think is hideously overrated. Like I just think
it's fine. I don't think it's great or good. I just think it's fine.
Very average for me. And then you get Chibnall's episodes, which can just fuck off because they're all bland and stupid.
Yeah, like at the time, I thought I think we mentioned I gave Arachnids in the UK a 7 when I first watched it because I thought it was 5. But then when I really thought about it, it was like no. The good part is about it everything with Graham, and that's it. The rest is pretty shoddy and shit.
It, in my opinion, is the worst of Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. That episode. Not just in terms of her personality or her comedy, but in terms of...
Ed Sheeran?
Worst...
You should know who Ed Sheeran is. He's in Game of Thrones. Come on.
But the worst... Oh, fuck's sake. Oh, God, if I ever
watched that episode. That was the first episode I watched in full with my whole family. I was like... Wow, that's pretty taking me out of the whole thing already.
In terms of episodes in Game of Thrones, that one is one of my least favorites in the whole show. I fucking hate that episode, Dragonstone. It's stupid and awful and bad and...
Yeah, I guess that's the reason. For the first full episode that I watched, I'm just like, well, I can see why people like it, but at the same time, why am I not engaged?
No. Bad episode.
Yeah. I think I'm more talking about the whole show as a whole rather than just that specific episode. It's like, but why am I not engaged in it at all?
Because it's stupid, it's bad writing, and it's not good. Yeah. It's bad. It's God. Your Game of Thrones experience has been only watching the worst episodes. Like why? What? I feel so bad for you because
I don't know.
It's
just how it worked out.
Yeah, it's like if you'd never seen Doctor Who before and someone showed you
and then you watched series 7,
like series 7 and Hellbent and Let's Kill Hitler and all the bad ones, and you'd be like, why do people like this show? Like, I get there's sort of a sci-fi thing going on, but I don't give a shit about it, and I'm like,
the characters seem very one note and pretty bland.
Yeah, because it's.
And bad. Then you show him series 1, 3, and 4, and you're like, oh, that's where it gets good.
Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with Game of Thrones. If you show them seasons 1 to 4, which are the actual book ones where they adapted straight from the text, and it's like, this is some of the most captivating, well acted, well written, well executed television ever made. The music's great, the direction's great, the writing's great, the characters are great, the acting's great, the story's great. It's thick, intricate, brilliant storytelling, and then you get
but soap opera's bad though, even though that is not an objective statement.
You get and then you get fucking when Ed Sheeran turns up in season 7, you get the disaster that was season 8, and it's just God.
Well, whimper ending, yeah. But season 8 wins awards apparently.
She's my queen.
I don't want it. I never have. Even I know those goddamn memes. I've watched all the meme videos and I don't know what the context is.
Yeah,
though Mauler summed it up for me pretty well, to be fair.
Yeah, whereas you compare that to season 1, and it's Sean Bean and Mark Addy and Charles Dance. Yeah.
He must say that 10 times per episode. He really is he's like an NPC character with limited dialogue.
Yeah.
All of you.
But there's one thing that I never knew is what happened to my mother. Next time we see each other, we'll talk about your mother. And then the whole show doesn't matter because Jon Snow doesn't matter. But yeah. Oh well. Hopefully the book ending's better. It will be. It has to be. It has to be. The only way it can be anywhere as bad is if George R. R. Martin doesn't live to tell a story. That's it. That's the only way it can't be as good, because I do not think that George R. R. Martin writing a book for 10 years could in any way mean that he doesn't know what to do with it. Like, it has to be that he wants it to be good. Because I know that man would not release a book if he didn't trust it. And knowing the kind of quality of writing he has, it has to be better. The ending of that has to be better than what the show does. Because the show was garbage with its ending. Anyway, dragged out this trivia, talking about other stuff like we usually do. Okay. Reynolds was at a dinner party with Matt Damon, pitched him the toilet paper manifesto, and asked Damon if he wanted to play the part. Damon thought it was hilarious and agreed to the cameo. Wait, what was this? Matt Damon. Was he in this film?
No, I don't think so. Read that again.
So Reynolds was at a dinner party with Matt Damon and pitched him the toilet paper manifesto and asked Damon if he wanted to play the part. Damon thought it was hilarious and agreed to the cameo.
So I guess he's in the beginning sequence where like he travels across, and then he's in the Tokyo bit where they're in that sort of like inside like multiple pools, and they're all like in towels and stuff with machetes, and with that with like long swords and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So he must have been in that.
Okay.
Like hidden.
All right then.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Apparently, Ryan Reynolds noticed the similarity between Papa Can You Hear Me and Do You Want to Build a Snowman?
That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
No one fucking realizes it. I hate Frozen, so that was good.
I haven't seen it, but I hate it too. And I know people are going to be
I was forced to watch it in school once, and I was just like, oh, why the fuck am I having to watch this? And every time it's like, this is stupid. This is dumb.
Yeah, when someone says to me, like, what's the most overrated film ever, like, it tends to either be Frozen or Avatar that comes to mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Frozen is shit. Fight me.
Mm-hmm.
The villain is nonsensical, and the villain is pointless.
Oh, but it's a film for kids. It's a film for kids.
It's a film with ice wizards meant for children.
Oh, I can't wait till we review Star Wars.
Oh yeah, when we get to goddamn Last Jedi, or even just the fucking first one, I am going to have a go at people saying like, oh, but it's a kids' film. It's like, no, it's a family film. There is a very clear fucking difference.
Luke's a Mary Sue. No, he's not. No, he's not.
They establish he's a pilot, and you know, he does do training, and he's not great. He lifts up 3 fucking rocks in Empire, but Rey, you know, she lifts up like 10,000 in Last Jedi.
You know what? Training. You know what Luke Skywalker does in Empire? He loses. He nearly dies. He nearly dies, and finds out that the person in the world that he hates is his father. You know how fucking depressing that is?
Mm-hmm.
And not only does he lose, but he gets absolutely manhandled.
No, but Rey wants to find the good in Kylo, even though Kylo killed her father figure literally probably days ago. No, but Rey's great. It's a shame because Rey could have been a really good fucking character. She really could have. What they set up for her in Force Awakens at the very start of that.
We'll get to those films. We'll get to those films. I'll be able to talk about those films in detail and what I think of them.
But thankfully, we'll have the good to talk about first, though. Thankfully,
yeah, we'll have the good stuff, and then we'll have the absolute meme-worthy shit, and then we'll have the absolute shit. This is where the fun begins.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
We're just gonna get through Dark Phoenix first. Anyway.
Sophie Turner. She's actually alright in Game of Thrones sometimes. Like when the script's good and the actors around her are good, like when she's with Littlefinger, she's actually alright. Though she's written into some stuff that's a bit questionable. Like there's a very controversial scene when she gets raped, and it's like, oh,
Is
she
it
gets
by
raped.
Ramsay Bolton or something?
Yeah, she gets raped on her wedding night.
Yeah, I saw a list of like worst or like ranked episodes, and that was bottom. I think it's season 5.
Yeah, before season 8, most people said that was the worst episode. And it is bad.
But then season 8 happens.
It is like Unbound and Bent Unbroken. Yeah, it's a bad episode, but it doesn't ruin the show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I know people are going to hate me for this. It's not as bad as Beyond the Wall from season 7, because Beyond the Wall is so fucking awful. There's nothing good about it. It's just stupid. Like, it pisses me off that so season 1, episode 10, the Night's Watch leave Beyond the Wall. And Jon Snow doesn't come back until season 3, episode 6. So he's Beyond the Wall for like 17 episodes. And that gives it so much weight because you've got an entire world of traveling to get through, to go on this entire journey, and then to come back, climb over the wall, and the satisfying moment when him and Ygritte climb the wall and they kiss each other, and you got Littlefinger's voice in the background saying, "Chaos is a ladder." It's orgasmic television. But then you get Beyond the Wall. In one episode, they go out and back and they tell a bunch of penis jokes and like, "Oh, we'll catch a White Walker for Cersei because she might come on our side." And then everyone has plot armor, and then Daenerys comes in to save them with her dragons. But the Night King doesn't aim at the proper dragon, he aims at the other one because the Night King is stupid. And then at the end, he's like, "I bend the knee! You are my queen!" Horrible, horrible Dan and Dave bullshit. And that's all I gotta say. So apparently Julian Dennison was 15 when he filmed this. So he was ineligible to actually see the film in New Zealand because it's R16. Yet he definitely saw it. We know that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's quite funny. It's just like how there's like 10-year-old kids in Game of Thrones that obviously would have watched the show. During the James Bond S opening credits, Deadpool's pistol has an inscription around the tip of the barrel: "Smile, wait for the flash." In the first Deadpool, during the opening scene, the writers are listed as the real heroes here. In Deadpool 2, the writers are listed as the real villains here.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah. And somewhat appropriate.
Yeah.
Considering. Yeah. I feel like I'm scared for what Deadpool would be like in the MCU. I feel like they just wouldn't be able to capture the essence of the original.
Yeah.
It would be so franchisey. The playground they fight in at the end is the same one used for Sarah's nightmare in Terminator 2. You know what's a cool playground? The one that they go to in Forest of the Dead. When Donna's children are like cloned.
Yeah, I posted on a comment on Blindway's reaction to that episode. I actually used to know Donna's fake son from that episode.
Oh,
I
really?
went to a like a local like school of drama, dance, and singing stuff, and I knew him for a couple of years, and I think it was after he had filmed it because it was 2010. I went there when I first started. He was there. So I
Oh.
was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't realize until years later when I rewatched the episode. And I was like, oh, okay, I know that kid. It's cool. That's
Hmm.
funny.
Doctor Who.
Hmm.
There was this Doctor Who YouTuber that I used to follow when he was still around, but then he quit in like 2017. Called TARDIS Archives. Um,
Oh,
and
yes.
and he was in the crowd of the pilot.
Yeah,
He
he
was in
was. Yeah,
the
I
university
remember.
crowd.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember because like, I remember that video. He said like they duplicated like all the seats because it's all the same people in each like section, but they just
Mm.
duplicated it.
Yeah. That's pretty funny how that works.
Yeah, that's it. That opening scene in pilot is great though. That
Yeah.
whole part with the Doctor being the professor.
Right. Julian Dennison was the only actor that the creative team considered for the role of Firefist. Sort of tailor-made
Mm,
character, with Ryan Reynolds insisting casting him after seeing Hunt for the Wilder People. That's what I suspected, because there was no other way that you could find that
yeah,
actor.
it's a shame they didn't go for other people because I think they didn't do a great job.
Oh, New Zealand humor makes money. Right.
Yeah, I mean he must be great in that, but he's not great in this.
I haven't seen it, purely because I saw the trailer and I'm like, I have no fucking interest to watch that because it's just cringe New Zealand humor. But from what I've heard, it's a very highly acclaimed film, as is all of Taika Waititi's films. Basically, like he's a.
And Ragnarok, which you don't like, so
I
I
like
guess they
Boy
went the
though.
same way.
I like Boy.
Hmm.
Boy is a good film. What We Do in the Shadows, I've only seen once. I remember when I first saw it, I thought it was hilarious, but I think if I rewatched it again, I might not like it as much. But from memory, I thought it was hilarious. It was about a bunch of New Zealand vampires living in a normal town, and then there's like another group they encounter in the film that they're like werewolves. It's really weird. But it's that Taika Waititi humor, and it's very dry. But it's almost like a dark comedy because it's like someone in their house is like rotting and bleeding and dying, and they're just like, oh yes, we are vampires, and we have some corpses here, and yes,
Hmm.
it's that kind of humor.
Yeah.
Like I'm when I say I don't like Ragnarok, I'm not saying that Waititi isn't talented because he is. Waititi is extraordinarily
Yeah.
talented.
Mm.
But I don't like the way the comedy is used in that film because I feel like he is capable of
Yeah.
better. He's capable of doing something better than that. And unfortunately, I think Love and Thunder might be his first dud. That's what I'm thinking. Sadly, I think that's going to be the first film he makes that's not going to be
Yeah.
well.
We
I
hope,
mean,
we
mate.
really do hope we're wrong though.
Oh yeah.
We
Oh
hope we
yeah.
are wrong.
Yeah. I just wish that Lady Thor was Sif and not Jane Foster.
Hmm. I mean, if they make a character better, then fine. But then she's inconsistent from what she
Yeah,
was
but
before.
it's Natalie Portman though. She's got like a natural cringe that only works in like weird films like Black Swan, not
Hmm.
franchise films like Thor and Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
And she's got so much like anti charisma, like where she's very very charismatic, but not in a good way. It's
Yeah.
hard to describe.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll get to that in Attack of the Clones specifically.
Oh, oh, oh dear, oh dear. I haven't rewatched that film in years.
So I haven't watched the
But
prequels like properly in, like years either.
but when I was a kid, I used to watch it all the time, so I have it like
Yeah, same. Yeah.
fluid in my brain. But it's not good.
Hmm.
But we'll get to that. Reynolds wrote the entirety of the toddler dick scene. Shirt cocking is a phrase I've heard my wife say. One of them asks how they got away with showing the toddler's penis. It was my dick and balls, replies Reynolds. That's how we got away with it. So apparently it was his actual dick and balls, and they downsized it.
Jesus.
That is... Imagine being contracted to do the CGI on that scene.
Yeah. Just give me 1 minute and the door's just gone.
Oh, yeah. The model for Colossus was altered from the first film to make him more chiseled and angular. I didn't really notice any changes. He looked the same to me, but I suppose if he looked different, then he looked different. Um, the writers considered bringing in Chris Evans to reprise his role as the Human Torch for one scene, but this did not eventuate. That would have been cool, honestly.
That would have been really funny.
Chris Evans.
Though he's like way more jacked, though. It'd be like really odd.
Yeah, and it's weird because I was about to say, well, he probably would have been filming Infinity War at this time, but so was Josh Brolin. And Josh Brolin had way more fucking screen time in Infinity War than Chris Evans did.
Yeah.
In 2016 movie, Deadpool makes a comment about superhero landing being hard on the knees. In this movie, he actually does the landing and grimaces. That was funny. That was
cool.
Yeah. Though I will say, whilst I understand it's done for comedic purposes, I feel like in this film there's a lot of plot armor for a lot of the characters. Like they just they get so bashed around.
Lucky, like Domino is like the ultimate plot armor character.
Yeah. Yeah, because like in Deadpool 1, it actually felt like there was some danger, especially with Vanessa. But this one, they just felt like they were invincible and kind of took away all the sting.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about the fact that Deadpool gets like mashed and dismembered multiple times, yet he just, I'll just fix it back because I've got this power. But Logan's great because he can't heal. And it's also great because Professor X's powers actually damage people rather than help people.
Yeah.
Oh, such good film. Ah, so good. Oh, I didn't realize that Scarlett Johansson was an ex-wife of Ryan Reynolds. Apparently they were married at one point. And apparently this is why Deadpool says "Shut up, Black Widow" to Domino.
I mean, I laughed at that, but that was like, oh, I guess now I know why.
Yeah, it's just say a joke about my ex-wife, who's working for the same company that I am.
Yeah.
Though not quite because it was Fox
at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And Black Widow's dead, but she's got another film coming out. But
yeah.
Fuck it, I don't know. Phase 4 is going to be interesting. Oh yeah, so Matt Damon wore face prosthetics and a fake belly. That's why he was unrecognizable.
Yeah.
Russell Crowe was Rob Liefeld's choice for Cable. Ryan Reynolds can hold his breath underwater for a long time, and he credits his grandmother, who was in the Olympics for that very event, and I guess I got some sort of weird genetic quirk from her. Well, that's helpful. Unlike Daniel Radcliffe in Goblet of Fire, where he couldn't hold his breath for long at all, and it took them forever to film the lake scene, apparently. Deadpool fighting with a brick in the final fight scene was Ryan Reynolds' idea on the day of shooting. The word "fuck" is said 90 times. It's not as much as the first episode.
Wasn't it like over 100?
Yeah. Though I think there's a scene in Deadpool 1 where he's like, fuck, 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 fuck.
Yeah.
To pursue the prison convoy, Wade steals the red scooter, a vehicle he's been associated with going solo in 2002. That was a funny moment where he just randomly stole a scooter.
Yeah.
Uh, the with apologies to David Beckham promo.
Oh yeah, I've got that on my screen right now in terms of I've got all the clips and trailers, and that is one of them. Is one of the promotional materials.
Beckham ribs Wade that he thought he was apologizing for a swath of his actor Ryan Reynolds' filmography, including Green Lantern, Ripped, Selfless, Blade, Trinity, and Frankenstein comedy Boltnik. Berlin's Take My Breath Away also plays in the background.
Well, I think I remember in the first one he mentions David Beckham in like the joke, along with himself, Ryan Reynolds, in that joke. And I guess that's why.
Mm. Ryan Reynolds seems to have a lot of knowledge of like outside of American culture.
Yeah, well, he's Canadian, so.
Oh well, that would make sense then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. In other news, Canada destroyed Namibia in the Rugby World Cup. That's something I could say about Canada recently. Oh, and at quiz we had a question about where is Celine Dion from, and it was Canada. But yeah, Namibia in the history of the Rugby World Cup is now 0-20. So they've won 0 games and lost 20 games. So it's the worst record in the entire Rugby World Cup. And in their pool, they're going to be playing New Zealand, the All Blacks, who have the best record in the Rugby World Cup. And they had the same thing 4 years ago in 2015. So, yeah, it's... I feel bad for them. Like, they just can't get a break. 20 losses.
20 losses.
0 wins. That's terrible. Whereas like New Zealand's won 88%. Never lost a pool game. The only time they've ever lost, I think, is in like a knockout game. Or there was like, I think there was one like bronze final they lost, but those games don't fucking matter. It's like for 3rd place. But yeah. Poor Namibia. They lost to Canada, who aren't known for rugby.
No.
But yeah. Wonder if England will actually get out of the pool this time.
I have no idea. So,
because that was one of the memes of the 2015 World Cup, is they were the hosts, yet they didn't even get out of their pool because they lost to Wales and Australia.
Yeah.
That was a funny meme. Like there was like a picture of like some kid trying to get out of a swimming pool, but he couldn't get out, and it had like the English flag over his face. Rugby. But yeah, I mean, in contrast to that, New Zealand are quite shit at football, so there you go. I suppose there's a balance there. In fact, England are much better at rugby than New Zealand is at football. Like, there's no doubt about that. In fact, they fucking won the World Cup in 2003. Whereas New Zealand didn't win jack shit ever. They barely compete in the World Cup. Like, they were in the 2010 one, but yeah. The All Whites. Though, the game they played against, I can't remember which country it was, but the one where they qualified for the 2010 World Cup, I watched that when it happened, and it was like, holy shit. Why? Like, this never happens to us. Like, we're shit at football. But nope, we somehow got in. By hook or by crook. Um, yeah. And another funny story about football is when we were in Australia, we were at the clubs. One of my friends was quite intoxicated, and he went up and we met a Brazilian guy in town, and he, you know what my friend said to him?
Mm.
7-1.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, we had to try and calm them down because the fight nearly started.
Jesus. Jesus.
That's like the worst thing you can say to a Brazilian person is 7-1.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll never forget that day. Whew. Like I'm not even a big fan of football, but whenever the World Cup's on, I always keep an eye on it. And one of
Yeah.
my friends was watching it at school, like on his laptop, and I saw that game, and I was like, "What the fuck?
Wow.
What the fuck is happening? Is the world ending?"
For them, it was.
Yeah. Uh, anyway. Oh, speak of Celine Dion. In the music video for this film's original song from Celine Dion, Ashes, Wade references Titanic. After seeing Celine is probably too good for his stupid movie, suddenly realizes, God, I should have asked NSYNC. Celine also confuses Deadpool for Spider-Man. Celine only goes up to 11.
That's great.
Apparently okay, here we go. Studio interference time. Though this one was denied, so it's not too bad. The studio wanted there to be a heavy sort of involvement talking about like LGBTQ, but the actress who plays Negasonic, what's her name? Teenage Warhead. She asked for it to be not made a big deal.
As you should.
Yeah.
It's like it shouldn't be a big deal. It shouldn't be like, oh, this character is this. That makes him great.
Yeah. Yeah. Like she said, I think she basically was saying like it should be more about like my character and also the girlfriend character as well. It should be more about their personalities rather than the fact that they're together.
Yep.
So that thumbs up.
Representation is great when it's just about the characters, you know.
Yeah, because I wasn't even thinking about it. I'm like, oh yeah, funny.
Yeah, I didn't care. I was just like, that's funny. It's like,
yeah, but like you don't have to be like, oh, they're gay. Like you don't have to do that.
Gay people in our film. That makes them great. It's like, no, they're great because they're good characters, not because they're gay.
Because they tell some funny jokes and fucking.
Like, Jesus. Goddamn, Deadpool is goddamn pansexual. So like,
yeah, yeah. It's not like in Deadpool 1 they were like, oh yeah, he likes a strap-on up the anus. He's gay. You have to like this film because he's gay. That's good representation. No, it doesn't fucking matter. It's funny. He likes a strap-on up the arse. Who cares?
It's funny because like, some woman just who won the World Cup for the female like USA team. I think she's been going on about like equal pay for like both men and women. It's like, you do realize that the men's football side of football is more popular, right? And it gets more views, so therefore it would get more.
And it's also and whilst I wouldn't doubt that winning a women's World Cup is astronomically great achievement, you could argue that winning the men's World Cup is more
because of popularity and the viewing ratings it gets,
and also the standard of athleticism. And whilst I understand that comes from the genetic advantage of, you know, having more athletic capabilities as a male, like I understand why that would be frustrating, but the truth is that winning a male World Cup is not only more profitable, harder to do, has more competition to get into the teams, not only to get into the teams, to get into an international team, to prove yourself, to be trusted, to play multiple games, to play against other countries, of other players that have. Again, it's another level, and it's not because it's a difference in gender. It's literally just a difference of difficulty and popularity and achievement.
Yeah.
It's like how you get paid more if you're in the NBA than you are if you're in the netball league, because basketball is a harder sport and a more popular sport.
Yeah. Once it gets on the same level of quality in terms of each individual athlete and also viewership and popularity, then you probably can get on the same equal pay. But also remember, not every single player in the men's football is paid the same. So
you want to compare
differently.
You want to compare like the New Zealand midfielders to Cristiano Ronaldo? Like you're joking. Like there's millions of dollars difference between them.
Yeah. And it's to do with their sport and their ability. So.
Yeah, like the New Zealand football players are paid like a decent living wage, and like with a bit extra because they're athletes. Cristiano Ronaldo gets paid like a house a week.
During this entire video, he's made like tens of thousands of dollars.
Exactly.
So like
he makes
because of his ability and his achievements.
He makes more money in like 6 hours than I do in a year.
Maybe even like a whole like 10 years.
And that's just his salary. You add on top of that like the sponsorship and like the merchandise and also his investments as well.
Yeah. It's like people forget, it's like some women do get paid more than men, and it's to do with where they are and their ability.
But put in perspective, he's had to work his ass off to get that money.
Yeah.
I get some people think he's a bit like overrated or cocky, has a bad personality, or has been shot to the moon in terms of his prominence in the media because of his like charisma and looks and his athleticism and whatnot. But nonetheless, he's had to dedicate his life to the sport. He's had to get himself in shape to the point where he's competing at a world-class level, and overall he's had to work really hard, and you don't just get paid millions of dollars because you're a male. It doesn't happen like that.
That's not how it works.
It's not how it works. There is a standard of your work rate, athleticism, and being able to capture a market. And that's how business works. Unfortunately, it's not fair sometimes, but
it's not to do with the gender.
Yeah, it's not to do with the gender. It's more to do with culture. If us as a culture could encourage each other to watch women's football, I think that would be great, because then more people could get opportunities to make money. That's great, but don't blame men for making women's football not as highly paid. Don't blame men for it. I don't think that's a fair statement. And that's just my opinion. Yeah.
No, but we're just sexist, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo gets paid that money not because he plays football, but because he has a penis. That's great. Anyway.
Alright.
So apparently Josh Brolin went on a strict diet for this film. Apparently before this film he was a husky 220 pounds, and obviously you would imagine so because he was playing Thanos, who's a big boy. But in this one he went down to 181 pounds. Ironically, he's 5'10", which is my height, and so he's not tall. It's weird because he plays Thanos the Titan, who's like tall as a house. Michael Shannon was considered for Cable, but dropped out due to scheduling issues. Lots of people were considered for Cable.
Yeah. Well, they announced at the end of Deadpool 1, they were like, we don't know who we're going to get Cable, we're going to have Cable.
A fan petition was made for Quentin Tarantino to direct this film.
That would have been way better.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino doing a superhero film?
Maybe that'll be. Well, he's got one more film to do. I think he says, or two. I can't remember.
I remember. I mean, I'm sure that would be on his bucket list. But I remember we were talking about like what's his face? The guy who was going to do Ant-Man.
Edgar Wright.
Edgar Wright. Yeah, it would have been like one of those situations of what if.
Yeah, because he's a great bloody director. So stylistic.
As is Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
Fuck hell. If the MCU get Quentin Tarantino to do Deadpool 3, I'm in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Oh, and Deadpool with Nick Fury. Quentin Tarantino writing Samuel Jackson. Oh. Oh well, he's been ruined.
He'll finally get to say motherfucker and not get cut off.
Yeah. Oh, the payoff. The payoff.
And then you get Deadpool saying, "Oh, you're not meant to say that." He's like,
Yeah. So the first time Nick Fury sees Deadpool, he's like, "Who's this motherfucker?" And then Deadpool turns to the screen and goes, "Oh, he said it! He said it! He said the word!"
See, that's what this film needs more of. Stuff like that.
Yeah. Not just, oh, we do lazy writing, and he turns to the screen and goes, "Well, that's lazy writing."
Yeah. It's like, come on.
The film makes several references to Deadpool's pansexuality. The first film was criticized for ignoring it.
It didn't know.
He
had pansexuality. He took a strap on. Are you fucking kidding me? He took a strap on. No, but his pansexuality needs to be important to the fucking plot. Bro, it's not how it fucking works, you dumbasses.
In the anus.
Yeah. It's like, come on. Like, he said no, but it was just like, he is still pansexual because it's still fucking painful. Come on. Fucking people, man.
You want it to be porn? You want it to be porn?
I mean, to be fair, those 2 minutes did pretty much were porn.
Yeah.
But it's funny.
But
it's funny.
But you know, it's fucking what's her face and Ryan Reynolds, like, who's gonna complain? You know? Oh, but he's not telling us that he's pansexual. He's just getting fucked by his girlfriend, which means he's still straight. What are you paying attention?
That doesn't make any sense because he's taking something, you know.
Pretty sure it's, that's what it means. Oh, it's too subtle. Yeah.
It's literally on your screen.
And it was in the name of feminism as well. Like they said, was it Women's Empowerment Day or some bullshit? Like the holiday festive thing.
Yeah.
It's like in the name of feminism as well. It's like, what do you want? Like, we've given you everything. Given you a scene where a man is analed by his woman on a Women's Empowerment Day. How is that not?
No, but they need to not die though. Women need to be perfect. They need to be the best, and men are shit.
I need to have Deadpool come in and say, "I'm gay." Oh, such a good film.
Oh, God. This society.
What about
have you heard the like things where people be like, Joker's gonna be a dangerous film? It's like, fuck off. Yeah, because the film is gonna get people to fucking become a murderer, and not because they're fucking mentally fucked up. It's all to do with the film.
To its credit, it might end up being a really good film. Who knows? But The Dark Knight is a really good film. So to say that this is something special and new that we haven't seen before is lying.
Yeah, it's just a different kind of like film, I would say, to Dark Knight with the Joker.
Yeah, but to say that we haven't gotten a great Joker film before is a lie, because we have. We gotten the.
We have. We absolutely have.
Yeah.
I'm just annoyed that people say, "Oh, this film's gonna be dangerous." It's like, are you fucking kidding me? You've. Oh my god, this guy who is the slasher like quote unquote protagonist is a killer. It's like it's not presenting people to be killers. It's just a mental kind of film.
Apparently Ryan Reynolds is a friend of Taika Waititi. After seeing Hunt for the Wilder People. So yeah, so apparently, like, he watched the film and then he became friends with Taika Waititi. He's like, I want that kid in this film. He could be cool. It's like one of the ones where like Ryan Reynolds made a decision creatively, and I'm a bit like,
It was probably the wrong choice.
yeah. I understand maybe you thought it was a good idea when you watched Hunt for the Wilder People, but like, you got to really think about this. This is quite a serious decision.
You can't always go with your first draft.
Though, I will say one thing about this film that I did like, I haven't mentioned. I like the fact that Deadpool has like a shitty X-Men group, and they fly in the plane the same way that the X-Men do.
X-Force.
X-Force.
Because X-Men is sexist.
It's so funny. It's so funny because Deadpool's trying to do the whole like, I'm trying to stand up for feminist rights, but then he makes a comment accidentally that's actually sexist, and he like completely fucked it up.
Yeah, I like how this film is making a feminist joke, but then if fucking Dark Phoenix, they actually say, "Oh, you shouldn't call it X-Men; it should be X-Women because the women are pulling everything around here." It's like fucking fuck off.
Well, the thing is, this film is making a feminist joke. Dark Phoenix is a feminist joke.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that next week. When we beat it to death.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it'll be good. Maybe it's a good film.
Maybe it's great. Maybe it's the best conclusion to a franchise we've ever seen.
Yeah, maybe it's like Logan.
I can't even talk about that.
Maybe Sophie Turner's performance rivals Hugh Jackman's.
Oh God, she wishes. I wish because I want to see good content.
It's funny because her best scenes in Game of Thrones are when she's a 13-year-old and she's like melodramatic because that's what 13-year-olds do. When she's like, I want to have babies with Joffrey. You can't take me back to Winterfell. I want to stay. And it's like, it actually makes sense because that's what a kid would say.
Yeah.
But no. In X-Men, she is shit. Again, I've said this before in this video, I've said it on other reviews. Game of Thrones Season 1 is a masterpiece, as is 2, 3, and 4. Has small little flaws, but honestly, it's just the book seasons are so fucking good. It just sucks because if anyone watches them now, they're going to want to watch the rest, and then the rest is just slopes downhill. Because like 5 has some good stuff, but it's a mess. 6 is overrated as fuck. It's just like, it's like X-Men Origins, so it's like, let's just kill every character to make it surprising, but with no purpose. And then Season 7 has no characters left, so it's a bit like, it's just a bit shit. And then Season 8 ruins the whole thing. Some of the most disappointing television I've ever seen. So yeah. But Seasons 1 to 4, beautiful stuff. George R. R. Martin's a genius. The fucking books, man. Like, the books that Season 5 is based off are bit like... I was reading some of the chapters and so captivating. There's like a chapter called The Soiled Knight. Where you take the point, because the books are told from point of view, so you only know what someone's telling you, so it can very easily lie to you because obviously you can't see what's happening in the scene. You can only imagine what the person's telling you from their point of view. There's a chapter in A Feast for Crows called The Soiled Knight, where you are playing a guard who is going off his duty to have an affair with a woman, But it's not revealed what her name is. But you get to learn about this woman and her like personality traits and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a very grotesque description of the sex scene they have, but whatever. That's George R. R. Martin for you. He's always like the seed is strong. He's always like, but it's great. And then when you find out who the woman is, it's revealed it's someone you met earlier in the book, and it's so fucking brilliant. It's so good. Why wasn't the show like that? Why did they not? Oh, it's not fair. It's not fair. The books are so good. So good. The fucking Dawn plot, because that was from the Dawn plot, which in the TV show is just the biggest pile of shit. It's just like, we are the Sand Snakes. No men shall rule in Dorne again. And then they kill all the male leaders, and they're like, we are feminist. And the actress who plays Ilaria Sand is the same actress who plays Susie from Torchwood. You know, the one that dies in the first episode?
Yeah.
And her acting is just...
That's where I recognise her from. I was like, whenever I saw clips of Game of Thrones, there was this one woman I couldn't recognise, but I knew she was from somewhere. And it's like, oh, she's from the episode of Torchwood, I remember.
It's annoying because she's one of the worst characters in the show, but like her partner in that show, Oberyn Martell, is one of the best characters in the show. But he's only in season 4. He's so fucking good. He's so good. And then you get to season 5, and she's just like, we shall avenge Oberyn. And then like all the fucking cringy actresses are trying to act like Oberyn Martell. It just doesn't work. One of them's a New Zealander. It's just... Ugh. It's Obara Sand, I think. Whereas like Oberyn Martell's like, Tyrion Lannister, I will be your champion. And then he gets his face crushed by the mountain. I got your sister, and I raped her, and I killed her, and I buried her in the ground. And he crushes him, and skull cracks, and his eyes pop out, and it's great. Tywin organized it all. He's like, Tyrion's trial has been lost, and now he will be sentenced to death. And he sentences his own son to death, and it's... What a great story. But no. Nope. The White Walkers were just hive mind, and they were killed by a small girl, and they had no significance. And yep, Daenerys burned the whole city to the ground for no reason. And yeah. I've given a demonstration of like how good the books are, how good early Game of Thrones is, and how bad late Game of Thrones is, all in this video.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about the
it's
Soiled
like a
Knight.
it's a mini Game of Thrones recap.
Yeah, I talked about the Soiled Knight chapter. I talked about the climb from season 3, and then I talked about the shitness of season 8 and 7. Fucking season 7. Ugh. Well, if any of you watch Game of Thrones and are interested to learn more, watch me, Jake, and Daniel's 5-hour recap of season 8, where we absolutely tear it to shreds, and then we rank all the seasons and we talk about why the good ones are good, because they're great. Every line Ryan says as Deadpool is repeated on film, so the effects team at Weta can map the expressions onto the animated mask. Oh, Weta did this. They're from New Zealand. Interesting. The cigarette actually hits the camera lens.
That's funny.
Oh, I understand why the baby leg scene was so drawn out now, because Ryan Reynolds wrote it himself and it was 11 pages.
Oh, Jesus Christ, 11 pages. I love Ryan Reynolds, but that's going a bit too far.
I think they may have given him a little bit too much creative control in this film.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's better, jokes are better when they're like, there's more to be desired, I think. When you're like, oh, that's so funny, I wish there was a bit more, but it's like, they're not giving you what you want, you know? In that sense, in these kind of films. Is like less is more, I would say.
Mm. Uh, Russell says he's gangster like Tupac, and
Oh god.
also doubles as an actor allusion to the actor's previous role in Hunt for the Wilder People. Well, that
I mean,
does not give me any.
reference or substance? Which is which?
Well, that actually happens in Ragnarok as well because they reference What We Do in the Shadows when Korg's got like the
Yeah.
vampires or something.
But it's an actual, like, I would say a funny joke because it's like, oh yeah, it would be honest, there were three vampires that were huddled together. I think that's a funny joke. But it's a reference with a bit of substance. This is like, I'm a gangster like Tupac.
Well, yeah, I mean this is worse. But when I saw that in Ragnarok, I was just like, I wish I was watching What We Do in the Shadows instead. Zazie Beetz said she was shocked when she was cast as Domino.
Yeah, and I bet she was shocked she didn't do much on set.
Is she like the Storm of Deadpool?
God, I don't know. Oh, we won't know if she ever comes back.
Oh well. All right. Give your overall conclusion and final thoughts and rating out of 10 for Deadpool 2.
Deadpool 2 is, I would say, a really good film, but it has lots of problems. It doesn't feel as focused. It doesn't feel as engaging as the first one. I think they went a bit too far with jokes and stuff compared to the first one. It's a much bigger story, and I think that hinders what Deadpool's character is. Because in the first one, it was a very simple story, but it allowed the creativity to flow through its characters. In this, it's a fun ride, but there's not a lot of substance to it, I would argue. But I did enjoy watching it. I just think on an objective level, it's not as good as the first one. But I subjectively really enjoyed a lot of the jokes. Some went a bit too far with Russell, for example. So I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10 because I think I felt similar to like with Homecoming in a different sense of it's a good watch, but I wish there was more I could dig into. So yeah, that's my sort of feeling on it. So
right. For me, Deadpool 2 was a disappointment, though not a bad film. Still a decent film. It's got some really good moments in it. It's got some nice jokes, though a lot of them don't land for me, especially with Russell. The characters feel overstuffed and underdeveloped. The plot devices are annoying. The comedy is stretched out and it becomes tedious rather than the first one, which was the sharp, clever, brilliant. One of the funniest films I've ever seen was the first Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds' performance is still good, but his focus wasn't there. This to me is a step backwards. It feels more like X-Men. Like it feels like an X-Men film featuring Deadpool, which is unfortunate because Deadpool 1 is brilliant and not overrated. It's awesome and clever and has, aside from the fact that it has a basic plot and the last shot is a bit weird.
It is simple but creative.
Yeah, it is so good. It's a work of art. This film is stuffed, messy, lacks focus, lacks an antagonist.
There's no villain. There's no villain in the overarching story. There's no villain,
and its themes are blunted, and it's lazy writing. Whilst it references it, they don't get away with it. The middle section is bland, and sadly, I'm going to have to give this a 6.5 out of 10.
Ooh. Controversial.
Yeah, I would say for me this is on par with it was. I would say in terms of like the X-Men films we've reviewed, this is probably like just below the Wolverine, but like probably above First Class, around that area, I'd say.
I would still argue this is still one of the much better X-Men films.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I suppose. But
'Cause it doesn't
I
make it because at no point it makes me fucking either bored or angry.
the thing is, I was thinking a 7, but
Mm.
I thinking back on it, I really did enjoy a lot of the Wolverine. It's just I think the ending was the only problem I really had with that one, with like
Yeah,
the Six Samurai and the robot thing and the woman character, whatever her name was.
yeah.
Um, but with this, I really feel like the problem's detrimented its quality, and as a sequel, I think it fails to capitalize on what Deadpool 1 sets up.
Yeah.
Though it does have its strengths, but the thing is with
It just
Deadpool
has a
1,
lot of weaknesses.
yeah, with Deadpool 1, I said like if this was in the MCU, it would be like one of the best ones. I feel like if Deadpool 2 was in the MCU, it would like fit right in, and that feels sad for me to say, but I think it's
Yeah.
true. It's got that kind of tainted homecoming tier sort of franchise feel to it with small moments of brilliance and some potential brilliance, but it's just so squashed and unfortunately doesn't make it for me. It's a 6.5. Decent film, but sadly I can't say I enjoyed it nowhere near as much as Deadpool 1. Which means that we've only got one film left in this franchise.
The finale.
The
The
finale,
finale of this
the one that
franchise.
we've all been waiting for, Dark Phoenix. But once we get through that, we get to Star Wars, and that'll be great. So, yeah. But the thing I'm looking forward to with Dark Phoenix is we finally, at the very end of it, we do get to wrap up the series, talk about it as a whole, and then rank the films. But yeah, I am not looking forward to watching Dark Phoenix.
Nope.
Um,
I have to bloody rent it or buy it to be able to watch it, and I'd rather just watch it for free because it's probably not going to be any good.
I'm gonna be watching it for free, as I have done with all these films. Though sometimes to my detriment, because remember last week I thought I was watching Logan, but it was some stupid Mars romance with
Yeah.
Gary Oldman in it. I don't know what the fuck that was. Anyway, yeah, abide by the law, kids. Do what the police tell you. Anyway, but yeah, next time we're going to be watching Dark Phoenix, and
And the conclusions of the whole franchise.
yeah. So yeah, and we'll be ranking all the films, and then we never have to fucking touch X-Men again if we don't want to.
Yay! Apart from Logan and Deadpool and
Yeah.
Days of Future Past on occasion. Those are all good.
Honestly, wouldn't mind watching the Wolverine in like 5 years, but
Yeah.
not too motivated. It's just like a film that I might watch here and there.
Yeah.
Because I like the style of it. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's a cool little film.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I have and nostalgia as well because I watched it in the theaters.
Yeah.
But what were we gonna say?
No, I'm just saying I'm all done now.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So no last words. Right then. We will see you next time for Dark Phoenix. Hopefully it's watchable.